Chapter 49. At this moment, Lung Shiqi still had some lingering fear in his heart. However, high risks also brought huge benefits. Now, not only had he successfully broken through to the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, his cultivation had also jumped up a little. All in all, it was equivalent to 10 days of his bitter cultivation. Refining the blood essence of a rank 1 demonic beast was equivalent to 10 days of bitter cultivation. A bright light flashed through Lung Shiqi's eyes. One had to know that the thing that Blood Fog Island lacked the most was demonic beasts. He could use this method to quickly improve his cultivation. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi couldn't help but feel a little excited, and said with emotion, as expected of a rank 3 cultivation method. In the next few days, Lung Shiqi was not in a hurry to return to the cave. He walked slowly like this, and from time to time, he would encounter demonic beasts. He was not careless, and directly used all his strength to kill the demonic beasts at the fastest speed, and then destroyed the corpses. However, the movement he made was too big, and even if he cleaned up the battlefield, he was still noticed by some people. In this way, 4 days passed, and Lung Shiqi had already refined 7 rank 1 demonic beasts, and his cultivation was already at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. However, Lung Shiqi was not very happy, because he suddenly realized that even though his cultivation was at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm, the spiritual energy in his body was somewhat impure. In other words, although refining demonic beast blood could allow him to quickly improve his cultivation, it would also cause his spiritual energy to be impure. In the long run, it would cause his foundation to be unstable. Therefore, Lung Shiqi restrained the impulse to quickly improve his cultivation and stopped in time and rushed back to the area where he was originally, the withered forest. He planned to go back to the cave to rest and refine his spiritual energy. Who would have thought that he would hear the sound of fighting halfway? Strange, the eruption of cultivation resources is 3 days later, and there is no water here. Who would fight at this time? Lung Shiqi secretly felt strange, and with a thought, he quietly moved in the direction of the fighting. In this area of the withered forest, only the Yushu clan, the Belichuan, and the Mahis sect could fight. Among them, the Yushu clan and the Belichuan both had grudges with him. He might be able to gain something if he went over to take a look. After quietly approaching, Lung Shiqi hid behind a dead tree and observed. There were 2 groups of people fighting, and one of them was the Belichuan. Lung Shiqi didn't recognize the other people, so they should be from Mo Gate. There weren't many people fighting, only about 20 or so in total. Although it was called a fight, it was more appropriate to describe it as a martial arts competition, because no one revealed any killing intent. Looks like they only want to determine the victor, not the victor. Lung Shiqi thought to himself. There were 4 people who stood out the most in the battle. First, it was Bailey Qing and his opponent. The only person who could compete with Bailey Qing was Mo Gate Sovereign, Mo-E. The other 2 were also pure spirit realm cultivators, and one of them was a black-faced young man. Lung Shiqi seemed to have some impression of him. Lung Shiqi silently observed the battle situation. In the end, the final victory or defeat was still on the 4 pure spirit realm cultivators. However, no matter if it was Bailey Qing or the black-faced young man, they were both in the upper hand. Looks like the Belichuan is going to win. Sure enough, suddenly Bailey Qing's long spear swept and flicked rapidly, drawing 2 rays of spiritual light in the air, forming a cross shape. He suddenly stabbed again, and the tip of the spear condensed a sharp spiritual light in the center of the cross shape and immediately stabbed forward. Moe's expression changed. He didn't dare to take it head-on and could only try his best to dodge, but his shoulder was still scratched by the spiritual light. 2nd level spiritual skill. My luck is not bad. Lung Shiqi looked at Bailey Qing with a little surprise. A 2nd level spiritual skill was very rare, and it just so happened to be suitable for Bailey Qing's spear skills. On the other side, that black-faced young man also barely won a move. Stop! Bailey Qing shouted. Everyone from the Belichuan immediately stopped and retreated when they heard this. Bailey Qing took 2 steps forward and said, "Victory and defeat have been decided. I wonder if Sect Master Imo can afford to lose." Imo Yi's expression sunk and said seriously, "Bailey Qing, why are you so persistent? This is my business. I only want to know your choice." "All right, if you agree to bet, then you must accept defeat. Before you make a move, send someone to look for me." Imo Yi's face was gloomy, and finally he clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice, "I believe Sect Master Imo will not go back on his words goodbye." Bailey Qing's murderous gaze swept past Imo Yi and the rest, and following that he smiled slightly and left with his subordinates. Seeing Bailey Qing leaving, Imo Yi's face revealed a sinister look, and in the end he also brought his men back. Lung Shiqi witnessed everything, but he was still puzzled, not understanding what Bailey Qing wanted to do. If he wanted to force Imo's sect to join forces against the Yushu clan, then his attitude towards Imo Yi shouldn't be like this. Moreover, the 2 groups of people were fighting openly and creating such a huge commotion, it was impossible to hide from the Yushu clan. Perhaps there might be people from the Yushu clan secretly spying on them. Shaking his head, Lung Shiqi didn't have the mood to bother about them, because with Lung Shiqi's ability and vision, it was just like playing house between them. No matter what he did, as long as it had nothing to do with him, it was fine. Following that, Lung Shiqi quietly returned to the shelter he had arranged, the cave. Entering the cave, Lung Shiqi's body gradually relaxed, and when he touched the slightly damp bed, Lung Shiqi directly laid on it and fell into a deep sleep. Since the last time he went out, it had been 1.5 months. First, he fought with the Yushu clan and the Beilichuan, and then he encountered a first-level demonic beast. After that, he accidentally discovered the underground space, and was almost discovered and even trapped by the restriction, which could be said to be a narrow escape. After escaping with great difficulty, he unintentionally got involved in the battle between the Supreme Society and Blood Moon. What's more, he didn't expect to meet the Delta Orgi and help her destroy the Supreme Society. Later on, he forcefully refined the demonic blood and almost died from his meridians exploding. Although his cultivation and ability had greatly improved, but it could be said that all these were exchanged with his life. Lung Shiqi suddenly felt very tired. Every bone in his body, every meridian was faintly aching. His eyes were blurred, and his body gently fell on the small bed, and unknowingly, a light snoring sound was heard. At the same time, in a corner of the withered forest, 10 over figures stood facing each other. One of them reclined on a wooden chair, peeling a juicy fruit in his hand, and then took a bite. Oh, sweet! A blissful expression appeared on that person's face, and he even smacked his lips. Seeing this, the veins at the corner of Bailey Qing's eyes twitched a few times, but he suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to speak in a calm voice. "Sect Master Yu, did you understand what I said just now?" Yes, it's sweet." Yushu took another bite of the fruit and continued, "Didn't you say that he came back?" "That's right." "Then who's back?" Bailey Qing put his hands behind his back, tightly clenching and unclenching his fists, and said word by word, "Lung 10-7. "Oh." Yushu was surprised and didn't continue to eat the fruit. "Sect Master, you must have also realized the threat of that person. You just said Ling 10? Who?" Yushu showed a puzzled expression. "You." Bailey Qing almost couldn't control his emotions, but in the end he said calmly, "It's that Lung Shiqi who defeated you face to face and took the 2nd-grade spiritual weapon from you." "Nonsense. What do you mean I lost? We fought to draw a draw. Do you understand?" Yushu heard this and jumped up from the wooden chair as if his tail had been stepped on. "Not only you and me, but also your subordinates Qi Shuai and Hua Lingling. My subordinate blood is no different, and—" Clap, clap. After that, Bailey Qing clapped his hands. 2 people walked out from behind him. Mo Sex Overlord Mo E and Pure Spirit Realms Mo 2, a total of 7 pure spirit realm cultivators. Killing Lung Shiqi is not a problem. Yushu was surprised to see Moe here. Logically speaking, Mo's sect and Lung Shiqi had no grudge against each other. Sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight was the best choice. Sect Master Yu, Lung Shiqi is a common threat to all of us. If we don't get rid of him, do we have to give up all the cultivation resources that he wants? Make a decision. Bailey Qing continued to speak, his voice full of persuasion. Even if the 7 pure spirit realm cultivators can defeat him, but to kill him is not 100% certain. Either we don't do it, or we must kill him, otherwise there will be endless trouble. Yushu said in a deep voice. Then we'll use human lives to pile up. Bailey Qing's face was filled with hostility. Gather all the 9th level spirit realm cultivators. We can exhaust Lung Shiqi to death. As long as you don't hold back, he will die without a doubt. Bailey Qing's voice fell, but Yushu remained silent, as if he was still hesitating. Bailey Qing added more strength. I have specially inquired about Lung Shiqi's character and found that he is an extremely crazy person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. When we are defeated by him one by one, it will be too late to join forces. In fact, Yushu's considerations were far more than Bailey Qing's. He had seen Lung Shiqi controlling thunder and lightning to kill the blood-spotted leopard with his own eyes. He did not have the confidence to withstand that kind of power. Another layer was related to the Delta Orgi. Yushu knew that the relationship between Lung Shiqi and Delta Orgi was not ordinary. If they really killed Lung Shiqi, would they be targeted by the Delta Orgi in future? After hesitating for a moment, Yushu suddenly turned around, his eyes emitting an icy cold murderous intent as he said sternly, "For days later, we'll make our move." Because Yushu himself was very clear that Lung Shiqi wanted to kill him very much. Bailey Qing, Moe, and Yushu looked at each other and nodded. After that, the few of them started to discuss the details of their plan. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was still immersed in his sleep, totally unaware that a huge crisis was quietly approaching. Lung Shiqi slept for a full day and night. When he woke up, he felt refreshed and refreshed. Lung Shiqi stretched his body, and a series of cracking sounds could be heard coming from his body like beans being fried. Lung Shiqi casually ate and drank a little, then sat cross-legged and picked up the bulging bag beside him and opened it. The bag was piled with a large amount of cultivation resources. Just the spirit stones alone were as many as 30 to 40 pieces. One must know that it was not easy for an ordinary person to have 1 or 2 spirit stones in their hands. Other than that, there were many medicinal pills, some to strengthen one's foundation, some to increase one's spiritual energy, some to regulate one's qi and blood, some to recover one's spiritual energy, etc. After Lung Shiqi sorted these into categories, he sat quietly, without moving, his eyes revealing a pondering look. These resources in front of him were only a portion of a small forces collection. Although it was not the most precious, it was already a considerable amount. Lung Shiqi even felt that it was a waste for him to use it alone. This caused other thoughts to arise in his mind. Every time the cultivation resources erupted, they would be scattered all over Blood Mist Island. Not many of them would fall into the withered forest, and most of them would be divided among the 3 forces. If he was alone, no matter how strong he would only be able to snatch 1 or 2. The rest would have been taken by others long ago. This was the biggest disadvantage of a lone wolf. No matter how strong you were still alone. However, Lung Shiqi had too many secrets. It was impossible for him to join other forces. Only the Delta Orgi's blood moon was within his consideration. If he wanted to create a force, he could do it with his strength, but he did not like and was not good at controlling people. He preferred to be alone and be free. After thinking for a while, Lung Shiqi suddenly had a flash of inspiration and took out a dark green bottle. His fingers kept rubbing the small bottle. Lung Shiqi's eyes became brighter and brighter. This might work. Chapter 51. 3 days later, which was the day before the eruption of cultivation resources, Lung Shiqi left the cave. After a few days of consideration, he decided to secretly control one of the forces. In this way, not only could he collect a large amount of resources, he also didn't need to be distracted. It was the best of both worlds. And the target he chose was Mo clan. In these 3 days, Lung Shiqi had secretly caught some people to inquire about the news of the 3 forces in Withered Forest. Now, among the 3 forces, Yushu clan was in the lead. Clan Master Yushu had broken through to the 4th level of Pure Spirit Realm not long ago, and there were 2 Pure Spirit Realm experts under him. Belichuan was second while Mo clan was the weakest. The weaker they were, the easier it was for Lung Shiqi to succeed. Actually, in the beginning, among the 3 factions, the 100 Mile group was the weakest. This was because Lung Shiqi had once killed more than 10 members of the 100 Mile group consecutively. It could be said that he had severely injured them. But later on, Mo clan actually provoked Yushu clan, and after a few rounds of fighting, Mo clan was defeated. At this time, Belichuan was quietly developing and had surpassed Mo clan in one leap. Moreover, Lung Shiqi had coincidentally seen Mo and Bailey Qing sparring and knew that Mo did not cultivate any second-level spirit skills. Even though their cultivations were similar, both were at the 3rd level of Pure Spirit Realm, but they were no match for Bailey Qing. Being suppressed by Yushu, he might be able to tolerate it, but to be suppressed by Bailey Qing, Mo Yi's heart would definitely be filled with grievances. This was a breakthrough point. Lung Shiqi was dressed in a black robe as he sped through the night, as though he was a ghost from the abyss. About a quarter of an hour later, Lung Shiqi arrived at a small-scale campsite nearby. But at this moment, he frowned. From the information he had received, there were a total of 60 to 70 people in Mo clan. But Lung Shiqi saw that there were many people inside. Roughly counting, there were more than 100 people. Lung Shiqi's mind moved, and his body sank into the ground. In Mo clan's big tent, there were 7 people sitting around, 6 men and 1 woman. These 7 people were the Pure Spirit Realm experts of the 3 forces. Tomorrow was the day they decided to eliminate Lung Shiqi. They gathered here today to discuss how to lure him into their trap. As for why they had chosen Mo Gate to discuss this matter, it was because Mo Gate was the weakest and would not be able to cause any waves. After the injection of cultivation resources tomorrow, send everyone out to search for the Lung Shiqi, Bailey Qing said first. Idiot! Yushu looked at him with disdain. Ignoring Bailey Qing's ugly expression, he continued, Do we need to find him? If he really came back, he would definitely fight for the cultivation resources. He would take the initiative to appear. When the time came, all he had to do was to quickly send a message. Also, those below the 9th level of the Spirit Gathering Realm do not need to know about this. Let them fight, but don't kill. Otherwise, it will be bad if the Lung Shiqi notices something. Bailey Qing and Mo nodded their heads when they heard that. The most important thing is that when we gather, we must not rush. We must surround him and not let the Lung Shiqi escape. If he escapes, you all should be very clear about what the consequences will be. Yushu said solemnly. Bailey Qing's eyes were filled with fear. If a person who could kill a first-tier demonic beast was watching him at all times, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Once the encirclement is successful, we must first exhaust him. Those who have concealed weapons, throw them. Those who don't, throw stones. He has cultivated spiritual skills. This kind of attack will not hurt him, but it will consume a lot of his spiritual energy. Furthermore, the 7 of us cannot attack together. To be honest, we are already on guard against each other. If we attack together, we will be restrained. The 3 of us will form a triangle to attack the Lung Shiqi. Once the Lung Shiqi has the intention to break through, we will support each other. The last sentence. Since everyone has chosen to do this, then do your best. I don't want anyone to deliberately hold back and cause any bad consequences. Yushu said a series of words. Finally, his eyes shot out rays of light as he scanned the few of them. Bailey Qing and the rest of them looked a little unnatural but they still agreed. However, what they didn't know was that there was a figure hiding under the ground where they were talking, who had heard all their secret plans. And this person was the target that they were about to join forces to kill, Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi was also a little confused at this time. How did they know that I'm back? I'm such a big threat. I didn't even know. In fact, when Lung Shiqi was trapped underground for more than a month, he didn't appear for so long. This made Bailey Qing and Yushu think that they had used their numbers to force Lung Shiqi away, especially since Bailey Qing and Lung Shiqi had a life and death grudge. When he learned that Lung Shiqi's strength had greatly increased and he had returned, he subconsciously thought that Lung Shiqi would definitely come for revenge. Thus, Bailey Qing steeled his heart and decided to get rid of Lung Shiqi. But the cost of just relying on his Belituan to get rid of Lung Shiqi was too great. In order to get rid of this threat at the smallest cost, he decided to join forces with the Yushu clan and Jet Black sect. He first used a large amount of resources as a bet and bet with Jet Black sect. If Jet Black sect won, then all the cultivation resources would belong to them. If Jet Black sect lost, then he would join forces with the Belituan to get rid of Lung Shiqi. After that, he went to persuade the Yushu clan, which led to today's matter. After Lung Shiqi eavesdropped on the news, he quietly retreated. He was very glad that he came today. Otherwise, he would really be trapped in a situation of being surrounded and killed. Thinking about the scene of being surrounded by 7 pure spirit realm cultivators and a large group of 9th-level spirit gathering realm cultivators, Lung Shiqi couldn't help but tremble slightly. Of course, he wasn't afraid, because with the Hand of Earth, he was already in an invincible position. Even if he couldn't win, he could just drill into the ground and escape. What could they do to him? The reason Lung Shiqi was trembling was because he was excited. Perhaps it was because there was a warlike seed in the depths of his heart, or perhaps it was because he had refined a lot of demon blood that he had unknowingly become a little manic. But when he thought of fighting against dozens of people by himself, the blood in his body faintly boiled. Lung Shiqi took a deep breath and suppressed the restlessness in his body. Although he was excited, he hadn't reached the point of being arrogant. The expression in his eyes kept changing, as if he was thinking about something. He had to do something. After pondering for a while, Lung Shiqi seemed to have made a decision, and his body sank into the ground again. In the Ink Sect camp, there were 3 groups of people standing clearly separated. Normally, if these people saw each other, they would directly draw their swords. Who knew how much hatred had accumulated between them? At this time, it was already very rare for them to be able to stand here steadily. At this time, a short youth in the Belituan was a little irritated from standing, so he casually took 2 steps forward. Coincidentally, the people of Ink Sect who were passing by were carrying some fruits towards the big tent. The 2 of them glared at each other and brushed past each other. The moment the 2 of them passed by each other, the person carrying the plate suddenly staggered and fell to the ground, the plate full of fruits rolling around. That person hurriedly got up, his face full of anger. He turned around and grabbed the short youth in the Belituan, questioning, "Why did you trip me? Are you crazy?" The short youth was puzzled and asked back, "There's only the 2 of us here. If you didn't trip me, who else could it be? I advise you to let go of your hand now." The short youth was already a little angry, but when he saw that this person was only at the 8th level of the spirit gathering realm, his tone became a little more contemptuous. So what if I don't let go? Don't forget, this is Ink Sect. I'll say it one last time, let go. I won't let go. Scram. The short youth was enraged and punched out. The Ink Sect person didn't expect the other party to suddenly attack and was completely unprepared. He was directly sent flying and crashed into a wooden pillar. His body twitched a few times, and he actually stopped breathing. Chapter 52. When the short boy saw that person lying on the ground without getting up, he muttered trash in disdain and pretended to leave. But when he saw that the man was still lying there motionless, he frowned and walked over. He said in a bad mood, "You're not going to give up. Hey, I didn't use much spiritual power in that punch. Why are you pretending to be dead?" but that person was still lying there limply. The short boy couldn't help but panic. He quickly squatted down and stretched out his hand. That person had already stopped breathing. What? He's dead. The short boy turned pale with fright and shouted sharply. His shout immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. The short boy hurriedly covered his mouth, but it was already too late. The first to arrive were a few people from the Jet Black sect. When they arrived, they immediately realized that one of their own had died here. He died in his own territory. The Baelichuan's people killed a member of the Jet Black sect in their own territory. The short boy immediately caused public outrage. He did it. I saw him punch 233 just now. He's from the Baelichuan. The Baelichuan has gone too far. A life for a life. Dozens of people from the Jet Black sect gathered around. The dozen people that Bailey Ching brought also stood beside the short boy. Both sides immediately drew their swords. What's going on? The other people from the Baelichuan asked the short boy. I don't know. I just casually punched him. Who knew that he would die? The short boy was also very confused, but the current situation made him somewhat fearful. He naturally knew why they were here. At this critical moment, such a thing happened. If they pursued the matter, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. What? You really punched him? G13, do you know how critical this moment is? Have you lost your mind? That person might have some injuries on his body. How could you be so impulsive? The people from Baelichuan were also very angry at G13's actions. But after all, he was one of their own. At this moment, they had to stand up. Both sides started a quarrel like this. Their anger grew bigger and bigger, and they could fight at any time. Such a large commotion naturally alarmed the 7 people in the secret room. When they came out, they saw that the people from Mo Gate and the Baelichuan were almost fighting. They looked at each other, but didn't say anything. Mo, he stepped forward and bellowed. What are you doing? Sovereign, the people from the Baelichuan have gone too far. They actually killed 233. What did you say? Say that one more time. Mo Yi's eyes widened as he revealed a shocked expression which was instantly replaced by fury. When Bailey Ching heard this, his expression changed drastically. That's him. Mo Yi turned his head and shot a sharp glare towards 13G as he asked coldly, You're the one who killed my men? 13G's heart tightened. He opened his mouth and mumbled, I just touched him. I didn't want to kill him. Bastard. Bailey Ching shouted angrily, interrupting him. Following that, he speedily ran towards 13G and struck out with his palm. 13G instantly spat out blood and flew out. Sovereign Mo, I'm not strict enough in my discipline. After this matter is settled, I will punish 13G severely. Bailey Ching cupped his fists as he squeezed out a stiff smile. Mo, he walked over step by step and stood in front of Bailey Ching. His eyes looked straight into his eyes as he said word by word, This is Mo Gate. The reason why the two of them got into a conflict and the process was not important anymore. The most important thing was that 233 was dead. He died in Mo Gate's own campsite. A simple sentence of severe punishment was not something that could be easily resolved. Sovereign Mo, at this critical juncture, don't let such a small matter affect the bigger picture. Bailey Ching knew what Mo Yi was thinking as he said earnestly. Hearing this, Mo Gate's members were unhappy as they were extremely indignant. Small matter? You call the death of a person a small matter? The person who died wasn't your Baelichuan's men. A life for a life. A life for a life. A life for a life. Mo Gate's members started to shout loudly. At this moment, Bailey Ching's expression had sunk, and Yu Shu and the rest were secretly thinking that something was amiss. Actually, if this matter happened in normal times, it was a very normal small matter. That's right, it was a small matter. On Blood Mist Island, it was very common for people to die. But this was Mo Gate's campsite, and killing a Mo Gate's disciple was not a small matter. This was equivalent to giving Mo Yi, the sect master of Mo sect, a slap on his face. If Mo Yi easily let this matter pass, then his position as the sovereign would have reached its end. So he must stand out forcefully. Mo Yi's imposing manner suddenly changed and became overbearing. I want an explanation. Mo Yi, the bigger picture is at hand. Do you really want to be so ruthless? Bailey Ching kept his smile, and his tone sunk. As the leader of the Beilituan, he naturally could not hand over his men. Umph, M.O., he sneered. Bailey Ching, you might have forgotten one thing. My M.O. Gate and Lung Shichi have no enmity. You, don't tell me you want to go back on your words? Bailey Ching's expression changed as he shouted sharply. You killed my men in front of everyone. You must give me an explanation for this matter. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? M.O.E. did not give in at all. Both of them became silent, but the atmosphere became even more solemn, mixed with a slight smell of gunpowder. At this moment, Yushu, who was enjoying the show, knew that it was time for him to come out. Cough, cough. Yushu coughed dryly twice to attract their attention. He continued, I say both of you don't need to be so stiff. Calm down, calm down. M.O.E. and Bailey Ching tactfully took a step back. They knew that it was impossible for them to fight at this moment. Yushu's appearance gave them a way out. Both of you, this matter happened too suddenly, and we don't know the whole story. Why don't we let our subordinates investigate carefully? Perhaps there might be some misunderstanding. When the truth is out, we can discuss the matter on its merits. Yushu had already put it this way, so they naturally understood what Yushu meant. The matter was very simple. What was there to investigate? It was just a temporary measure. After they got rid of Lung, Shichi tomorrow, M.O. Gate, and Beilituan could do whatever they wanted. But now is not the time to start an internal conflict. Investigate it carefully for me. If G13 really killed 233 for no reason, no matter how many people protect him, I will make him pay with his life. M.O., he said expressionlessly as he turned around and entered the tent. Only after he entered the tent, his expression became slightly distorted. Bailey Ching whispered to his subordinates, all of you better behave yourselves. If there's any more problem, I'll take your head. This matter was temporarily suppressed, but everyone's hearts were covered with a layer of shadow. Yushu sighed faintly. He didn't know why, but he always had a feeling of unease. The plan this time might not be as smooth as he had imagined. Lung Shichi, who had witnessed all of this, also left the place and quietly returned to the cave. He had secretly used some tricks to break 233's heart meridians, thus stirring up their internal conflict. But this could only be said to have planted a seed in their hearts and was not enough to destroy their alliance. Chapter 53. Returning to the cave. In order to prepare for tomorrow's challenge, Lung Shichi called out the system and looked at his information. Name: Lung Shichi, Lu Xingji, Cultivation, Level 5 of Pure Spirit Realm Cultivation Method, Rank 1 Cultivation Method, Mountain Shattering Force Rank 1 Cultivation Method, Record of the Wind Rank 3 Cultivation Method, Beast Essence Demon Breaking Technique Bloodline, Spiritual Skill, Great Perfection of the Unranked Spiritual Technique, Threefold Water Palm, Rank 1 Spiritual Skill, Gold Breaking Blade Perfection First Stage Spiritual Technique, Vine Grappling Hand, has reached perfection. Rank 1 Spiritual Skill, Windward Finger Perfection Rank 1 Spiritual Skill, Centipede Curse Perfection Rank 2 Spiritual Skill, Wave Breaking Fist Perfection Special Spiritual Skill, Hand of the Earth Perfection Special Spiritual Skill, Chakra Walk Perfection System Coins. 206. Looking at the system coins that were as high as 200, Lung Shichi hesitated. These system coins were obtained from looting the Supreme Meeting and killing many monsters. Originally, he planned to save them for the next system upgrade, because for him now, the beginner prizes did not seem to satisfy him. But now the fastest way to improve his strength was through the lottery. The stronger he was, the smoother tomorrow's plan could be carried out. Then, Lung Shichi made up his mind and opened the lottery interface, boldly choosing 20 consecutive draws. After a while, Lung Shichi rubbed his forehead with a slight headache. Looking at the small pile of miscellaneous items beside him, he could not help but sigh. This time, he did not get much from the 20 consecutive draws, and there were only a few things that could be used. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Sword Heart Illumination. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Tendon Changing Bow, 10 bows and arrows. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Instance Dungeon card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize. Close combat skill. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize. Ghost Parade. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize. Spirit Medicine. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize. Spirit Protection Ring. The other items were some materials and miscellaneous items. Not to mention, Sword Heart Illumination was a wisp of pure white sword energy. Lung Shichi touched it, and it went into his mouth. After carefully feeling it, he found that there were no obvious changes. The Tendon Changing Bow was a Tier 2 spirit artifact. Lung Shichi tested it and found that it would take some effort to pull it into a full moon. The power of the arrow that was shot out would definitely not be small. The Instance Dungeon card was similar to the mission card he had drawn before, but it was blue in color. He had no use for it now, so he put it away. Close combat techniques could be considered a spiritual technique, but it wasn't a type of move. Instead, it was a type of combat technique. It was not bad to be able to use every muscle and joint in the body flexibly. The 100 Ghost Parade was a level 1 body movement technique that was a level 1 body movement technique. Its Shichi was to the host to heaven, was to increase his speed to the stage, to the host to the stage, to perfection to the next stage. Lung Shichi was finally in a better mood. He murmured, "Ghost Parade combined with Confusion Footwork is definitely a weapon that can be used to attack and defend. Tomorrow's plan can be adjusted." Then he picked up the Spirit Medicine. This thing could increase his spirit strength for a short period of time, but it also had some side effects. Finally, the Spirit Protection Ring was a rare defensive spiritual weapon. After injecting spirit strength, it could activate a protective spirit light. Unfortunately, this thing could only be used once. Lung Shichi counted the rewards of the lottery while adjusting his plan in his mind. The next day, the entire withered forest area seemed to be covered with a layer of oppressive dark clouds. Everyone was waiting for something to happen. Lung Shichi looked up at the sky from time to time. He seemed to be waiting for something. At this moment, he was standing near the 100-mile regiment's camp. Not long ago, he saw Bailey Ching take all the elites out. Now, there were only 10 people left. Lung Shichi waited silently. His eyes flashed fiercely. Bang! The cultivation resources began to erupt. At this moment, everyone began to move. Lung Shichi took out a dark gold mask and put it on his face. He raised his right arm, and his purple wings spread out as he took off into the sky. He circulated the spirit strength in his body. Immediately, a layer of dark mist rose from his feet and extended to his ankles. He moved his feet, and his whole body suddenly jumped out. This was a light body spiritual technique, Ghost Parade. When he approached the Beilichuan camp, Lung Shichi's figure disappeared into the ground. At this moment, the 10 people left behind were chatting in boredom. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind one of them. Everyone was stunned. However, this moment was the difference between life and death. Lung Shichi moved the sword in his hand. A dazzling light burst out and instantly cut the throat of the person in front of him. At this moment, the other people finally came back to their senses, but their reactions were different. 6 of them picked up their weapons and surrounded him, but the other 3 turned around and ran. Lung Shichi maintained the Ghost Parade. His feet moved in confusion like a ghost. Every time he attacked, he would reap a life. In the blink of an eye, 6 cold bodies were lying at Lung Shichi's feet. He only knocked one of them out. Looking at the 3 people running away, Lung Shichi's sword suddenly disappeared. Chapter 54. 2 groups of people were in the middle of a fight. One of the men from Mo clan could have dodged the opponent's attack, but suddenly his feet seemed to have stepped into a quagmire and his entire body couldn't help but stagger, only to hear a sound as the icy cold blade pierced into his heart. The young man fell to the ground. The young man holding the blade was also stunned. How did his casual attack kill the opponent? But he immediately realized that something was amiss. Sure enough, when the men from Mo clan saw that one of their own was killed by the men from the Beilichuan, new and old hatred surged into their hearts. Kill them. The men from Mo clan could no longer control themselves and fought with all their might. The men from the Beilichuan naturally wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Both sides instantly engaged in a fight. The Lung Shichi, who was hiding underground, quietly left. Not long after, the men from the other 2MO clan and the Beilichuan also started a fight with real swords and spears. At this moment, in the middle of the withered forest, 50 over people were standing solemnly. Among these 50 over people, the weakest was at the 9th level of the spirit-gathering realm. But it was obvious that these people belonged to 3 different groups. The 7 people in the lead had a grave expression on their faces. Sect leader. Sect leader. Suddenly, someone ran over quickly from afar and panted as he told Yushu. Sect leader. Lung Shichi has appeared. Right here. Swoosh. Everyone's eyes fell on that person, causing him to suddenly feel an immense pressure. Did you see clearly? Don't get it wrong. Yushu asked. No, I definitely didn't see wrongly. It's definitely Lung Shichi. Yushu, Mo, E, and Beiliching looked at each other and nodded. Act according to the plan. Let's go. Yushu waved his hand and led the 20 men behind him to chase after the messenger, whereas Beiliching and Mo, E went around from the side. A siege against the Lung Shichi had finally begun. Beiliching was leading his troops to attack. His mission was to flank Lung Shichi. Thinking that it wouldn't be long before he could get rid of Lung Shichi, the thorn in his side, Beiliching felt a burst of joy in his heart. After a while, Beiliching heard shouts coming from behind. Leader, wait for me. Commander. Beiliching stopped with some doubts. The person who came was Qing 60, his subordinate who was responsible for delivering messages. Beiliching waved his hand and said, You don't have to say any more. I already know where Lung Shichi is. Then why did the guild leader go in that direction? The Lung Shichi is clearly over there. Qing 60 was also stunned when he heard this and pointed in another direction. What did you say? When Beiliching heard this, he frowned and said in a low voice, Say it again. Commander, Lung Shichi is over there. I saw it with my own eyes. More than a month ago, I saw Lung Shichi with my own eyes. I can't be wrong, Qing 60 said with certainty. Seeing that Qing 60 didn't seem to be lying, Beiliching's face became gloomy. He guessed that Yushu's men might have seen wrongly. But if he believed Qing 60, it would be impossible to bring these men to chase after the Lung Shichi. After all, the other party had spiritual skills. If he ran away, there would be no end of trouble. But if they continued to meet up with Yushu and the rest, they would end up empty-handed and create such a big commotion. It was hard to guarantee that the Lung Shichi would not notice. Once the Lung Shichi noticed and hid, they would not have the chance to join forces again. Beiliching was in a dilemma. But time waits for no man. Beiliching's expression changed rapidly, and after a few breaths, he said resolutely, Let's meet up with the Yushu clan and Mo clan first. Full speed ahead. Then, the dozen or so people spared no spirit energy and quickly left this place. After about 15 minutes, Beiliching saw a group of people in the distance. It was the Yushu clan and Mo clan. What's going on? Where's the Lung Shichi? Beiliching walked over and asked in confusion. When we arrived, we did not see the Lung Shichi at all. The people here only said that he did show his face, but left quickly, Yushu said in a low voice. On the way here, my men said that they saw the Lung Shichi in another place. Could it be that the people here saw wrongly? Beiliching told them that his men had found traces of the Lung Shichi. That's impossible. I was there when the clan leader and the Lung Shichi fought. There's no mistake. The person who reported immediately said immediately. He cannot take the blame for this. Maybe the Lung Shichi was just passing by and his target was not here. Don't forget, he has a movement-type spirit skill and his cultivation is high. His speed is much faster than us. It's possible that he appeared in 2 places at the same time. Yushu analyzed. The others nodded their heads. But just at this moment, 2 figures ran over one after another and found Beiliching and Mo respectively, as they muttered something softly. Mo suddenly flew into a rage, but he did not shout. His face was gloomy as ice, and his voice was slightly hoarse as he spoke to Bailey Qing. Bailey Qing, last night your men killed people in my territory. For the so-called important matter, I tolerated it. But today, why do you still want to kill me? Do you really think there's no one in my MO clan? The next moment, MO Gates' 10 over men stood behind MOE, all of them glaring angrily at Bailey Qing. Bailey Qing naturally knew what was going on. His men had killed MO clan's men first, and in the end, they fought. It could be said that both sides suffered losses. If this happened on a normal day, it would be fine. After all, both sides are enemies. But not today. Hey, what's the matter with you all? Yesterday we agreed not to kill. What are you all doing? Yushu's temper rose. Until now, they had not even seen Lung Shichi's shadow, and their own men had already started fighting. I'm not sure about this matter. I've already instructed my men. Perhaps there's an accident. Bailey Qing was somewhat helpless. He faintly felt that the matter had gone out of his control. Mo did not conceal his murderous intent as he stared at Bailey Qing silently, as if he would strike at any time. Yushu blocked in front of him and said, Mo, don't be rash. Listen to me. Bailey Qing, you said your men saw Lung Shichi. Let's not delay and rush over at full speed. If you see Lung Shichi, then join forces to kill him. But if you don't see him, to tell the truth, after creating such a huge commotion twice, even if he is a fool, he would have realized that something is wrong. By then, don't blame me for turning around and leaving. After all, Lung Shichi and I don't have any grudges. Let's go back to our own homes, and I will not interfere in your matters. How about that? Saying that, Yushu and Bailey Qing looked at Mo. Now his attitude was the most important. If he fell out with Bailey Qing, their alliance would be declared broken. This is the last time. Moe's face was gloomy as he squeezed out these words from between his teeth. Phew, Bailey Qing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Moe would fall out with him. Without the help of Yushu clan and Mo clan, he had no confidence to kill Lung Shichi. Chapter 55. At this moment, Yushu's eyes darted around as he stared at Bailey Qing and said, Since it was your men who discovered it, this time the Bailey regiment will be the main force. Mo Gate and I will flank them. As the main attacker, they would naturally have to face the Lung Shichi first, and their casualties would be the greatest. However, Bailey Qing had no other choice. They had just barely managed to keep Mahi's clan, and now they could not provoke the Yushu clan. Bailey Qing pondered for a moment, and could only nod helplessly. Then, more than 50 people spread out again and ran in the direction of the Lung Shichi. Along the way, Bailey Qing had a stomach full of anger that he had nowhere to vent. This time, the matter that he had led did not go well, and it made him unusually depressed. When they were about to reach the location, a sudden change occurred. The nearly 20 people from the Belituan suddenly fell into a huge quagmire. Everyone could not control their bodies and fell forward. Bailey Qing was the same. He was even distracted just now, and only regained his senses when his body was about to fall to the ground. Seeing this familiar scene, Bailey Qing suddenly stepped on the ground, and the spiritual power under his feet splashed the mud, and he jumped to the flat ground beside him. At the same time, he suddenly felt a sense of uneasiness in his heart. Bailey Qing thought to himself, this is bad. Of the remaining people, only 4 or 5 reacted quickly and got out of the quagmire, but most of them fell head first into it. At this moment, a dazzling sword light suddenly appeared from the quagmire. A figure jumped out from below, and the sharp sword in his hand stabbed out continuously. Immediately, blood splattered everywhere, and screams sounded. This figure was Lung Shichi. Cold. 10. 7. When Bailey Qing saw Lung Shichi killing several people with one sword like before, his eyes were bloodshot, and he spat out these 3 words fiercely. He wanted to eat him alive. One had to know that these people were all at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. They were the backbone of the Belituan, and they had the potential to break through to the pure spirit realm in the future. Now, 4 of them had died in one move. 2 of them were injured, but didn't die because they reacted faster. Lung Shiqi tilted his head slightly and said indifferently, "Haven't you been looking for me? Now that I've shown myself, why aren't you coming to kill me?" The corners of Bailey Qing's eyes twitched when he heard that. He had the urge to rush forward immediately, but he couldn't do that. Right now, he only had 14 people on his side. These people were not enough to kill Lung Shiqi. What he needed to do now was to drag things out. Once the Yushu clan and Mo gate arrived, they would surround and kill Lung Shiqi. "Are you waiting for someone?" Lung Shiqi seemed to have seen through Bailey Qing's thoughts and said expressionlessly, "Perhaps they won't be able to come." When Lung Shiqi's words fell into Bailey Qing's ears, he immediately trembled. The ominous premonition in his heart grew even stronger. But after all, he was the leader of a force. His expression changed a few times before he shouted in a low voice, "Don't fight him head on. Drag him down." Lung Shiqi didn't say anything. A black fog rose from his feet, and the third-tier spirit sword in his hand shook out a few sword flowers. He brazenly took the initiative to rush into the crowd. Just as Lung Shiqi was fighting with the belligerent people, Mo suddenly stopped in his tracks. The pure spirit realm cultivator beside him, Mo too, asked doubtfully, "Sovereign, why did you stop? Why didn't we stop? Don't tell me we're going to help them kill Lung Shiqi." Mo snorted lightly. "Then what about us? They're the ones who have a grudge with Lung Shiqi. What does it have to do with us? Let them fight to the death and both sides suffer. This is the most beneficial for us." Mo's eyes shone brightly as he continued, "Let's move forward slowly. If they meet Lung Shiqi, they will definitely fight. Rumor has it that Lung Shiqi has the ability to kill a first-tier demonic beast alone. So no matter who wins, Yushu clan and Belichuan will suffer heavy losses. To our Mo clan, they are the biggest threat. If we don't meet Lung Shiqi, then our alliance will naturally disband. At that time, we will stab the Belichuan in the back and settle the old and new grudges together." Mo too clapped his hands and said, "Sovereign is wise. Previously, we intentionally agreed to join forces with them and let the Yushu clan and Belichuan kill that Lung Shiqi. Then we could sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight." Mo's lips curled into a crafty smile. On the other side, the Yushu clan's group was really moving forward at full speed. The young man named Qi Shui beside Yushu asked, "Sovereign, are we really going to join forces with them to kill Lung Shiqi?" "Of course," Yushu replied without turning his head. "But I feel that Sovereign and Lung Shiqi don't have any grudges. No matter how strong he is, he won't be able to threaten our Yushu clan." "Why?" Before Qi Shui could finish his words, Yushu tilted his head and glanced at him. "How do you know that I don't have any grudges with him?" "Yeah, isn't this what Sovereign said?" Qi Shui's eyes widened slightly, revealing a strange expression. "Do you really believe what I say?" Yushu replied snappily. He then turned around and continued to run. But at this moment, a few crows' caws were heard from the sky. Yushu paused and looked up at the sky. He saw a purple crow circling above their heads. "First-tier demonic beast. Oh no! Attack!" Bailey Qing waved his hand. More than 10 people raised their hands and shot out all kinds of hidden weapons. Lung Shiqi used the ghost parade and confusion steps at the same time, constantly shifting his body. At the same time, the sharp sword in his hand turned into a sword flower, blocking the many hidden weapons with clanking sounds. But his black robe was still cut a few times. Bailey Qing seized the opportunity and roared. His refined spear suddenly swept horizontally in the air, drawing a cross in the shape of a cross. Then, the spear pierced forward with a sharp light. Heavy cross spear. Facing a second-tier spiritual skill, even Lung Shiqi didn't dare to be careless. But at this moment, more than 10 people attacked at the same time. In Bailey Qing's opinion, Lung Shiqi would be seriously injured if not killed. Unfortunately, just as Bailey Qing's heavy cross spear was about to pierce Lung Shiqi opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar. A formless sound wave spread out from his mouth. Sonic shockwave. The strong sound waves shook everyone's heads, causing a buzzing sound to ring in their heads. Bailey Qing, who was at the 3rd level of the pure spirit realm, was the same. He was right in front of Lung Shiqi and bore the brunt of the attack. At this moment, his mind was in chaos. Without the support of spirit force, the heavy cross spear naturally dissipated. Lung Shiqi took this opportunity to point his spirit sword. His whole body faintly emitted a sense of elegance. The killer move Chaotic Blossoms gradually mesmerizing was used. Lung Shiqi's body turned into several phantoms, and the cold sword light flashed rapidly. Just as Lung Shiqi's sword was about to pierce Bailey Qing's throat, Bailey Qing suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He recovered his consciousness because of this. In this life and death crisis, he only cared about holding the spear in front of him. Poochie, poochie, ding. The sound of sharp blade cutting through skin rang out. 5 people fell one after another. The last sword cut through Bailey Qing's spear, creating dazzling sparks. Chapter 56. Bailey Qing looked at the broken spear in his hand, and his heart skipped a beat. His whole body was instantly soaked in sweat. He never thought that Lung Shiqi's strength would be so strong. However, he didn't have the time to be afraid. He quickly took out a square iron box from his waist. Then he slapped the iron box, and the iron box began to spin on its own, making a caw-caw sound. At the same time, its shape was constantly changing. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a strange object full of small holes. Lung Shiqi had just finished using Chaotic Flower's dazzling eyes. At this moment, the spiritual power in his body was surging. As he secretly adjusted his breathing, he turned around and saw that the iron box was facing him with a dense array of small black holes. Level 1 hidden weapon. Lung Shiqi knew that it was bad. In a hurry, he used Ghost Parade and Confusion Footwork at the same time. His body flashed out as fast as the wind. But he was still one step too late. So, countless small black flying needles shot out from the iron box. Even though Lung Shiqi was extremely fast, he was still covered by some of the black flying needles. These black flying needles were extremely fast, and there were so many of them that he couldn't block them with his sword. Shua! Lung Shiqi put away his sword and his hands suddenly turned into pitch-black ghost claws. His hands flew up and down and caught all of the black flying needles in his hands. Crash! Lung Shiqi loosened his grip, and dozens of black flying needles fell to the ground, while cracks appeared on his ghost jade claw. Unfortunately, the black flying needles that Lung Shiqi dodged hit the 2 people behind him. It could be said that they suffered an unexpected disaster. As for Bailey Qing, he had already turned and fled after he activated the iron box. After a short fight, he knew that they didn't even have the strength to stop Lung Shiqi. At the beginning, they were attacked by Lung Shiqi and injured a few people. Then, the sound wave combined with Chaotic Flower's dazzling eyes killed a few more people. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen people were killed. If he didn't run now, he might not even have the chance to escape. Now, he finally recognized the reality and the huge gap between himself and Lung Shiqi. However, he did not regret organizing everyone to kill Lung Shiqi. Because of this, he felt that the decision was very wise. If they didn't kill someone with such strength, he would no longer be a thorn in their side, but a sword hanging over their heads at all times. Furthermore, Bailey Qing did not feel that he had lost. Although he had lost more than 10 9th-level Spirit Gathering Realm cultivators, he still had many 7th and 8th-level Spirit Gathering Realm subordinates. There were still many cultivation resources in the camp. As long as he spread the cultivation method and spent a lot of resources, he would be able to nurture a group of Spirit Assembly Level 9 subordinates in a short period of time. The direction he was currently flying in was indeed the direction where the Yushu clan was rushing over. As long as he could meet up with the Yushu clan, Yushu, an expert at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, would be able to hold back Lung Shiqi. The others would surround and ambush him from the side, and they would be able to exhaust him to death. Lung Shiqi saw that Bailey Qing was escaping and wanted to chase after him. Unexpectedly, a person blocked his path. It was a black-faced youth. His original name was Blood 51, but after breaking through to the pure spirit realm, he changed his name to Blood is no different. You want to stop me? Lung Shiqi narrowed his eyes and asked with a hint of interest. At this moment, Lung Shiqi's black robe was stained with blood, and there were nearly 10 ice-cold corpses lying crookedly behind him. Although his tone was calm, it was enough to send chills down one's spine. That's right. Blood is no different swallowed his saliva and gathered all his courage to shout out these 2 words. You know that you can't stop me. They're the wise choice. Lung Shiqi caught a glimpse of Bailey Qing's figure getting farther and farther away, but he didn't rush to chase after him. Instead, he pointed behind him with his thumb and said to Blood is no different faintly, as if he was chatting with a friend. Blood is no different also saw that the remaining people behind him were fleeing in all directions. His eyes were filled with determination as he said, even if you can't stop him, you have to. Why? Lung Shiqi was really interested in Blood is no different. On this blood fog island, there is someone who is willing to die for others. He saved my life. It's only right that I return the favor. Blood is no different raised his head slightly and said stubbornly. Lung Shiqi was slightly stunned when he heard this, but then he nodded and directly bypassed Blood is no different. Blood is no different suddenly lost sight of Lung Shiqi's figure. He knew that something was wrong and sighed inwardly before closing his eyes. Blood is no different was waiting for death. If one looked closely, one could see that his entire body was trembling slightly and cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. However, after waiting for a while, he found that he was still fine. Blood is no different suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with endless shock. Then he murmured, "He didn't kill me. How is this possible?" Blood is no different had experienced life and death in such a short period of time. After experiencing the terror of life and death, his body suddenly collapsed on the ground and he gasped for breath. At this time, Lung Shiqi was already far away on the black smoke. He swallowed a pill to recover his spiritual power and chased after Bailey Qing. However, he didn't chase for long before he frowned. He saw a group of people rushing over from afar. The one in the lead was Yushu. Lung Shiqi thought, why are they here so quickly? Previously, Lung Shiqi had sent Ziyu to stop the Yushu clan. He also knew that the Yushu clan was very strong, so he gave the order to retreat immediately if they were injured. However, Lung Shiqi didn't expect that Ziyu, a rank 1 beast that could fly, would be injured in such a short period of time. Yushu, you can't underestimate him. At this time, Bailey Qing had already met up with Yushu. He immediately said, we were ambushed by Lung Shiqi. He has a sound-type spiritual technique that is very difficult to deal with. My people suffered heavy losses. We're the people from Mo clan. Yushu saw Bailey Qing running over alone and knew that things weren't good. However, he still didn't see any sign of Mo clan, which made him even more uneasy. I don't know. Bailey Qing's face was also ashen. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but I encountered a rank 1 beast on the way here. I used some methods to repel it. Maybe Mo clan is also in trouble. That's too much of a coincidence. There must be something fishy. Bailey Qing said with a gloomy face. That's Lung Shiqi. Yushu seemed to want to say something, but suddenly saw a figure in the distance and exclaimed. Bailey Qing saw Lung Shiqi from afar and actually felt a little afraid in his heart. He naturally knew that Lung Shiqi was chasing after him. Bailey Qing quickly said, he is already injured and has consumed a lot of his spiritual power. We can't let go of this opportunity. Yushu's expression changed several times. Finally, he gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, kill. Immediately, Yushu and the other 3 pure spirit realm cultivators rushed out with 29th level spirit gathering realm cultivators. Target Lung Shiqi. Chapter 57. Long Shichi's expression did not change in the slightest as he faced more than 20 people charging at him. He turned from running to walking. With every step he took, his breathing became steadier. With every step he took, his aura became sharper. With every step he took, his fighting spirit became higher. He began to feel the blood in his body boiling. Long Shichi walked to a rock that was half the height of a person and placed one foot on it. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a heavy bow and arrow appeared in his hand. It was the tendon-changing bow. Then he knocked the arrow and drew the bow almost instantly. Long Shichi narrowed his eyes and drew the bow to a full moon. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit and killing intent. However, Long Shichi was not in a hurry to shoot. He was waiting for the enemy to enter the best shooting range. Yushu saw Long Shichi take out the bow and hurriedly reminded everyone, "Everyone, be careful." Everyone was on high alert. Long Shichi drew the bow and gathered his strength. The spirit power in his body circulated, and a touch of spirit light appeared on the arrowhead. Then, with a whoosh, the sharp arrow shot out. Everyone was prepared for this, and they immediately spread out. The weakest person here was at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. No one reacted slowly. The arrow was about to miss when Long Shichi's eyes suddenly lit up. The arrow that was shot out suddenly changed direction in midair. This was something that no one had expected. The sharp arrow accurately hit one of them in the heart, and he immediately fell to the ground, unable to get up. Seeing this strange scene, everyone subconsciously stopped in their tracks and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Everyone began to look at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. What kind of arrow was this? It could actually change directions? How could they dodge an arrow that could change directions? At this moment, Bailey Qing turned pale with fright as if he had seen a ghost. He had completely lost his usual shrewdness. When Yushu saw this, he frowned and said, "I say, Bailey Qing, you're also too useless, right? Ghost archery technique. How is this possible? It's impossible." Bailey Qing continued to mutter to himself. When Yushu saw that Bailey Qing was ignoring him, anger rose in his heart. However, he faintly heard Bailey Qing mention something about the phantom archery. He immediately grabbed Bailey Qing's collar and hurriedly asked, "You know this archery skill? Is there any way to break it?" Bailey Qing gradually calmed down and said in a low voice, "This is a rank 2 spiritual skill, ghost archery, that I obtained not long ago. However, this spiritual skill is very difficult to cultivate. Not only must one have extremely strong control over spiritual energy, but one must also have extraordinary spiritual energy and talent in order to successfully cultivate it. If one were to master it, they would be able to control the direction of the arrow in midair with their mental strength. It would be like a ghost, following the body like a shadow. It would be impossible to guard against. Then how do I dodge?" Before Yushu could say a word, he saw Long Shichi draw his bow again, and there were 2 arrows on the bowstring. The group suddenly panicked because no one knew who Long Shichi's target was. This fear of the unknown was the scariest. Just like before, the 2 sharp arrows suddenly changed directions in midair. The first arrow was aimed at the heart of a small-eyed youth. The youth's reaction was quite fast. He dodged and waved his sword in an attempt to block the arrow. Unfortunately, just as the arrow was about to hit his heart, it changed direction and hit the space between his eyebrows. The other arrow also took the life of another person. This strange archery skill was really like a ghost that crawled out of the underworld. They had already lost 3 people before the real fight. Yushu suddenly felt distressed and then shouted, "We can't go on like this. Spread out and charge with all your strength. As long as we get close, he will naturally not be able to use his archery skills. Charge!" Everyone knew that unless they turned around and left now, if they wanted to kill Long Shichi, they had to charge forward. Long Shichi's lips curled up slightly. The leg that was stepping on the stone suddenly straightened. Then he held the longbow in his hand horizontally, opened his 5 fingers, and took out 4 arrows and knocked them on the bowstring. He channeled his spirit energy, and his voice spread far and wide. He said, Guess who will die this time? Lung Shichi's voice clearly reached everyone's ears, causing a sense of panic in their hearts, especially those spirit cultivators in the spirit gathering realm. One must know that there were only 15 of them left. 4 arrows meant that 4 of them would be lying here forever. In total, everyone had a 25% chance of being shot. Could it be me? The 15 spirit gathering cultivators thought to themselves. The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. Gradually, some of them had other thoughts. They were Yushu's subordinates, but they were not death warriors. They could fight for Yushu, but they would not die for him. In the blink of an eye, 2 people in the crowd actually scattered and fled. Seeing this, Yushu was shocked and angry. He unsheathed his dagger and released a dazzling light. He said angrily, "If there are any more deserters, they will be killed without mercy." Whoosh, 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 just as Yushu's voice fell, for sharp arrows had already shot over. Pooh, pooh, pooh. In the blink of an eye, 3 people fell. Another arrow was chopped into 2 by Yushu's saber halfway through its journey. Sect leader Yu's blade is so fast. Lung Shichi's voice was heard again, but in the next moment, he suddenly kicked out and sent a stone in front of him flying. Then, he used the ghost parade to turn around and run. Because the distance between them was very close, at least some of the hidden weapons were enough to shoot over. Boom! Yushu's sharp blade cut the flying stone in half, but also successfully stopped him for 2 breaths of time. Looking at Lung Shichi's back as he quickly left, Yushu's face was gloomy as he said hatefully, he actually cultivated another light body type spirit technique. Sect leader, are we still chasing? At this time, a young girl's voice sounded from the side. She was the only girl among them, a spirit cultivator of the pure spirit realm, Hua Lingling. It was just that her voice was trembling. We must chase. Now that things have reached this point, there is no room for negotiation. Pass down the order, let all Yushu's sect members surround and kill Lung Shichi. Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we have to kill him. Yushu's eyes revealed madness. Since he had done it, he had to do it to the end. Bailey Qing also agreed to let all the people of the Belichuan block Lung Shichi. Continue chasing. For Lung Shichi, his speed was faster than Yushu's. After opening up a distance, he pointed his foot forward and his entire body instantly stopped. Immediately after, the tip of his foot drew a semicircle on the ground and his body suddenly turned around. He knocked a bow and shot an arrow in one go. So, the arrow shot out. Lung Shichi's unexpected arrow took away another person. Now, there were only 9 people at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm and 4 people at the pure spirit realm left. Next, Lung Shichi used the same trick again and shot 2 arrows in a row, but unfortunately, only 1 arrow hit and the other arrow was blocked by Yushu. At this time, Lung Shichi put away the tendon changing bow because he no longer had a bow and arrow. Then he also stopped. It was not that he did not want to run, but he had to stop because another group of people was walking in front of him. It was the people of Mo sect. In addition, there were some figures slowly approaching from all directions. Chapter 58. When Bailey Qing saw Lung Shichi being blocked by Mo clan's men and without his bow and arrow, he burst out laughing. Ha ha! Lung Shichi, let's see where you can run now. Don't act rashly. Let's surround them first. Yushu shouted loudly. This sentence was not only directed to Bailey Qing, but also to Mo-e. Mo-e was feeling a little dazed at this moment. Originally, he had brought his subordinates and was just wandering around aimlessly and didn't head in the direction they had agreed on. But just by walking around aimlessly, they actually bumped into Lung Shichi. This disrupted his plan of sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight. Mo-e took a careful look at Yushu's group of men. Originally, there should be 30 over elites from both sides, but now there were only 10 over people left. Especially when he saw Bailey Qing's lone look, Mo-e's eyelids twitched. He now had a feeling of riding a tiger and not being able to get off. Make a move against Lung Shichi? Not to mention if they could kill him, Mo clan would definitely lose some men, and this went against his original intention of reaping the benefits. Moreover, he had no enmity with Lung Shiqi, and if he didn't kill him after making a move, then he would have offended a strong enemy for no reason. But since he had blocked off Lung Shiqi, if he were let him off openly, he would definitely face the combined suppression of Yushu clan and Bei Lichuan. Don't think that they had suffered heavy losses, but their foundation was still there. Mo indicated for his subordinates to hold back first. Lung Shiqi saw that Mo didn't let his men surround him, and his heart skipped a beat as he said loudly, "Clan Master Mo, this is the first time we've met. It's an honor to meet you." First meeting meant that there was no enmity between them. He continued, "Why don't Mo clan let me go? Lung Shiqi owes you a favor. And I dare to guarantee that in future Yushu clan and Bei Lichuan will not join hands to exact revenge on you, because they have to be wary of me at all times. As long as someone dared to show their face, they had to be prepared to lose their head at any time. Furthermore, I've also heard that Sect Master Mo and the Bei Lichuan have been on bad terms for the past 2 days. In order to express my sincerity, I've also prepared a small gift for Sect Master Mo. Look, the gift is almost here." Lung Shiqi had just finished his sentence, and Mo was still puzzled when he saw a figure hurriedly running in front of Bei Liqing as he panted, Commander, not good. Our camp has been ambushed. The brothers who stayed behind were all dead, and all the cultivation resources were gone. They're all gone." It turned out that this person was the person that Lung Shiqi had deliberately knocked out in the Bei Lichuan camp. When he woke up, he saw the corpses strewn all over the camp, and then looked at the empty resources. He knew that something was wrong, and hurriedly ran over to inform Bei Liqing. When Bei Liqing heard this, he immediately turned pale with fright. He completely lost his sense of propriety. He violently grabbed that person's collar and roared with a ferocious expression, "You! Speak! What? Is that so? Those cultivation resources were his capital, his foundation. Gone just like that? Who did it?" That person had never seen Bei Liqing in such a terrifying state, so he was so scared that his mouth started to tremble. No, I don't know. That person was wearing a mask, so we couldn't see his face. His wrists were also covered by his clothes, so we couldn't see his name. You're saying just one person, and he defeated all of you? Bei Liqing went into a blank when he heard this. Yes. Trash. Bei Liqing could no longer control himself as he violently threw that person out, crashing heavily onto the ground. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared intently at Lung Shiqi, as though he couldn't wait to use his gaze to slice him into 1,000 pieces. He wasn't sure if that person was Lung Shiqi, but he was definitely related to him. But Bei Liqing didn't dare to rush up. At this moment, Lung Shiqi gave a harmless smile to Mo and said, "Sect Master Mo, do you like this little gift?" Mo's gaze kept darting around. Earlier, he was most afraid that after he let Lung Shiqi off, he would suffer the joint revenge of the Yushu clan and the Bei Lichuan. But now Lung Shiqi had directly helped him to resolve this concern. The Bei Lichuan's elites had all fallen, and its foundation had been destroyed. How many people would continue to follow him after this? The Bei Lichuan only existed in name. As for the Yushu clan, just like what Lung Shiqi had said, they were now in a situation where they would not rest until one of them was dead. The Yushu clan was already under the watch of such a strong enemy. So where would they find the time to take revenge on the Mo sect? Thinking of this, Mo's heart was moved. As though he saw through Mo's thoughts, Yushu hurriedly shouted, "Sect Master Mo, you can't believe his nonsense. Your appearance here means that you've joined forces with us. How can Lung Shiqi not see through this? He's a vengeful person, and if you let him off, he will still take revenge on you." Rubbish. I've always been kind to others, and if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. They know very well how they have offended me. So, Sect Master Mo, please don't believe the words of a villain. Lung Shiqi put on an imposing manner as he spoke. The most crucial point of the entire situation was Mo's decision. But at this moment, he started to hesitate. Lung Shiqi glanced around and realized that there were more and more people crowding around, and they were getting closer and closer. He immediately said, "Sect Master Imo, I won't make things difficult for you. You can choose not to move aside. As long as you promise not to make a move, I'll owe you a favor. How about that?" When Imoi heard that, his eyes lit up. He didn't retreat, but neither did he make a move. Not only could he answer to the Yushu clan, he could also earn a favor from Long Shiqi. "Stay where you are and await my orders." Imoi immediately made a decision and ordered. His action was equivalent to acknowledging Lung Shiqi's words. Yushu's face was gloomy. He had not expected Imo's sect to go back on their words at the last minute, but at this moment, he had no choice but to release the arrow. He shouted softly, "Kill!" Following that, with Yushu as the leader, Bailey Qing, Hua Lingling, Qi Shuai, and 9 other 9th-level spirit gathering cultivators charged over. Lung Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and his battle intent increased. He didn't evade and instead charged forward. In Lung Shiqi's eyes, the only real opponent was Yushu. His feet stepped on a dark fog as he raised his spirit sword and pierced towards Yushu. Yushu's short sword was unsheathed and directly slashed out a blade shadow. Ding ding dang dang dang. The two of them exchanged blows, and instantly there were bursts of metal clashing sounds as sparks kept bursting out. After a short exchange, the two of them quickly separated again. Pure Spirit Realm, 5th level. Yushu personally exchanged blows with Lung Shiqi and was shocked to discover that the other party's cultivation was actually at the 5th level of the Pure Spirit Realm. TSK. So what if you're at the 5th level of the Pure Spirit Realm? Let me see how much spirit power you have left. Yushu sneered and attacked again. At the same time, the other people had also arrived and displayed their strongest spirit skills. This time, Lung Shiqi did not fight head-on. At the same time, he used the 100 Ghost Parade and Confusion steps and narrowly avoided all the attacks. The next moment, he took a few steps and stabbed towards Yushu again. Still the same old trick. If you only have this ability, please enter the ground. Yushu's face showed a touch of disdain. However, at this moment, the speed of Lung Shiqi's sword suddenly became faster, as fast as lightning. Rushing Thunder Sword? Bailey Qing on the side exclaimed again. This was a sword skill that he had collected. How could Lung Shiqi use it? If once was a coincidence, how could it be a coincidence twice in a row? Bailey Qing said angrily, "Lung Shiqi, it really is you." Chapter 59. When Bailey Qing saw that Lung Shiqi had used this spiritual technique, he immediately guessed that Lung Shiqi was the one who had wiped out his campsite. He immediately rushed over with a grimace. However, Lung Shiqi's Thunder Rush sword was out of Yushu's expectations. Yushu hurriedly shifted his body, but Lung Shiqi was faster than him. With a chi sound, Lung Shiqi's spiritual sword pierced Yushu's left shoulder. Sect Leader! Sect Leader! A few Yushu clan men saw that Yushu was injured and immediately charged over. From afar, Imoi saw that Yushu had been injured so easily, and a sliver of suspicion surfaced in his heart. He secretly thought, something's not right. Yushu is extremely slippery. How did he get injured after just a few moves? On the other side, Lung Shiqi also faintly felt that something was wrong. This sword strike of his was indeed a small trump card, and could be considered to have caught his opponent off guard. But it was too smooth. In his estimation, Yushu might be flustered, but he shouldn't have been stabbed directly. Sure enough, at this moment, a sinister smile appeared on Yushu's face. Yushu's left hand turned into a claw and grabbed Lung Shiqi's wrist. "Brother Lung, did you really think that I would be careless?" Lung Shiqi secretly knew that things were not going well. When he wanted to withdraw his sword and retreat, he was held tightly by Yushu. At the next moment, Lung Shiqi only saw a flash of dazzling sword light in front of his eyes. Yushu had slashed out an astonishing sword, and the spiritual light on his sword body was rapidly swallowing, emitting bursts of sharp intent. The two of them were so close that Lung Shiqi could not evade this sword. At the same time, Bailey Qing's fatal cross spear and the other people's attacks had drowned Lung Shiqi. This time, Lung Shiqi will definitely die. At this moment, everyone's heart was thinking this, including Mo. Mo was already regretting at this moment. He really did not expect that Yushu would dare to use himself as bait and his own body as a shackle to restrain Lung Shiqi. He was really not afraid that he would be stabbed to death by Lung Shiqi if he was not careful. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Just when everyone thought that Lung Shiqi was dead, there was a sudden change. A dazzling spiritual light suddenly gushed out from Lung Shiqi's body and condensed into a spiritual shield which enveloped him. Everyone's attacks landed on the spiritual barrier, and the spiritual barrier suddenly trembled violently. In just 2 or 3 breaths, it disappeared without a trace. However, the shield's only breath was slightly disrupted and was not injured. He had activated the spirit protection ring at the most crucial moment. This sudden scene stunned everyone. Apparently, they did not expect Lung Shiqi to have such a trick up his sleeve. Lung Shiqi took advantage of Yushu's moment of absent-mindedness and retracted his sword and clenched his fist. All the spiritual energy in his body surged into his fist and immediately blasted out, displaying a strong and ferocious power. Tiger breaking 3 waves fist. When Lung Shiqi's fist started to move, Yushu finally regained his senses. It was too late to dodge. Yushu hardened his heart and directly pulled a person beside him a block in front of him. Bam! Lung Shiqi's fist landed on that person, and his body immediately arched and twitched continuously. His mouth opened, and he spat out viscous blood. But Lung Shiqi's fist did not stop there. He continued to move forward, and his fist landed on Yushu's body. Roar! All of a sudden, Lung Shiqi's fist emitted a loud and clear tiger roar. A hidden force passed through that person's body and entered Yushu's body. Pooh! Yushu spat out blood and flew back. Lung Shiqi retracted his fist and stood straight, but his face was pale, and he began to gasp for breath. At this moment, Yushu's eyes were filled with horror. First, it was the spirit protection ring, then such a powerful punch. How strong was his opponent? How many unknown methods did he have? For the first time, Yushu's heart actually had a trace of fear towards a person. But when he saw Lung Shiqi's state, he immediately wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and forcibly suppressed the chaotic spiritual energy in his body. Instead, he laughed. Ha! Lung Shiqi, you're very good. You're very strong. I'm not your opponent. But so what? In the end, you're just one person. Although Yushu was seriously injured, he still had Qi Shui, Hua Lingling, and Bailey Qing, 3 pure spirit realm cultivators by his side. There were also several spirit cultivators at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. In addition, there were still many sect members at the 7th or 8th level of the spirit gathering realm rushing over. No matter how strong you are, without spirit power, what can you do? Yushu continued. Lung Shiqi looked at the hundreds of figures that were swarming towards him from all directions. They had already formed a circle and surrounded him. It seemed that he couldn't escape even if he had wings. Lung Shiqi simply clapped his hands and said weakly, "That's right, my spirit power is almost exhausted and I don't have any ability to resist. But which one of you will kill me?" "Who? Come, kill me." These 4 words were imprinted in everyone's minds, and they remembered how terrifying the person in front of them was. Facing the pursuit of the elite spirit cultivators of the Belichuan and the Yushu clan, first he almost wiped out the Belichuan's elites, then he heavily injured the Yushu clan. Such a terrifying person, even if he had no spirit power at this time, no one dared to go up and kill him. What big words! I'll kill you. Bailey Qing couldn't stand it anymore. He desperately raised his spear and was about to stab over. Who would have thought that he would be stopped by Yushu? "Don't stop me," Bailey Qing roared. "Are you crazy? What if he has some strange methods and pulls you down with him before he dies. Wouldn't you have died in vain? I'm trying to save you, Yushu said sincerely and earnestly. In Bailey Ching stared at Yushu suspiciously, but he still obediently stopped. Everyone, if you have hidden weapons, throw them. If you don't, throw your weapons. If you don't spit on him, throw him to death. After Yushu grabbed Bailey Ching, he immediately changed his expression and bared his teeth as he shouted. When the surrounding people heard this, it was as if they were enlightened. They all picked up their weapons and looked at Yushu as if he was a tall mountain. They didn't think of such a brilliant method as expected of the clan leader. Facing Yushu's method, Long Shichi shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "This is no fun. Forget it. I won't play with you anymore. Let's meet again." After saying this, Long Shichi raised his hand and threw out a gray stone. Seeing Long Shichi throw out something, everyone subconsciously took a step back. In the next moment, thick, pungent smoke quickly spread out from the stone. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of more than 100 feet and was still expanding. Everyone immediately covered their mouths and noses and hurriedly retreated. They only heard Long Shichi say, "It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Everyone will settle our debts in the future." After a while, everyone left the area covered by the smoke. When the smoke dissipated, Long Shichi's shadow was nowhere to be seen. Yushu's face was ashen at this moment. He originally thought that Long Shichi had no chance of survival. He even sold a favor to Bailey Ching and planned to see if he could convince him after this. Now he knew that he had thought too much. They had planned for so long and paid so much, but in the end, Long Shichi still escaped. He couldn't help but have many complicated emotions in his heart. There was shock, regret, helplessness, and a trace of fear. They would probably have to live under Long Shichi's shadow for a long time in the future. In the end, Yushu could only sigh deeply and leave with his people. As for Bailey Ching, there were 20 to 30 people gathered around him. They were all at the 6th or 7th level of the spirit gathering realm. Just as he was about to bring them back to recuperate, he was stopped by Mo-e. Bailey Ching's heart thumped and his expression turned gloomy as he said sternly, "Mo-e, what do you mean?" "Humph, last night you killed my men right under my nose." "Beilichuan, how awe-inspiring. Today, I'm going to take revenge for my dead brothers." "Kill. Take revenge. Take revenge." Mo Sex people charged over in a frenzy. Nightfall. A wretched figure was stumbling as he ran. Gradually, he realized that the fog around him was getting thicker. This person revealed a smile and muttered to himself, "Almost there. Almost there. As long as I can find the people from Battle Sect, I can live." This person was Bailey Ching, who was besieged by Mo Sect and had risked his life to escape to this place. Just as a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, the next moment, a voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell rang in his ears. "Bailey Ching, have you ever experienced despair?" Chapter 60. In the withered forest area, it had been a day since the 3 major forces besieged Long Shichi. In this short period of time, the situation in the withered forest had undergone a major change. The original 3 major forces had become 2 major forces. Beilichuan had been destroyed. Yushu Clan's clan master was seriously injured, and more than half of his 9th level spirit gathering elites had died. In this battle, only Mo clan had not fought with Long Shichi, and none of Mo's elites had suffered any injuries. As a result, Mo Gate, which had originally been the weakest, had now become the strongest. On this day, Yushu had asked someone to set up a tent outside Yushu Clan. Yushu sat alone in the tent, bitterly chewing on a fruit. Pooh! After 2 bites, Yushu spat it out. "Not sweet, not sweet." He casually threw the fruit to one side. At this moment, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui each carried 2 wooden boxes as they walked in. Yushu nodded to the both of them and said, "Just leave it there, both of you can go back." Hua Lingling and Qi Shui looked at each other and said worriedly, "Clan Master, won't it be too dangerous for you to be here alone? Long Shichi could find you any time." "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Both of you should go back quickly. With both of you here, my subordinates will be more at ease. Yushu waved his hand casually. The both of them nodded and left the tent. Yushu stood up and walked to the 4 wooden boxes. He stretched out his hand and patted it lightly. Not knowing what he thought, he suddenly sighed. Then he said to the air, "Since Brother Lung is here, why don't you come out and meet me?" Immediately, a figure strangely floated out from the ground behind Yushu. It was Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi asked with interest, "How did Clan Master you know that I'm here?" Murderous intent. When Hua Lingling and Qi Shui came in, I felt a faint murderous aura. I think that other than Brother Lung, no one else would reveal killing intent towards 2 spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm. Yushu replied honestly. So that's how it is. Lung Shiqi nodded in understanding, secretly blaming himself for not being cautious enough. Before the 2 of them arrived, I didn't sense any killing intent. Can I assume that Brother Lung doesn't want to kill me? Yushu chuckled, his tone completely like he was chatting with a familiar friend. Lung Shiqi raised his eyebrows and crossed his arms in front of him. That will depend on Sect Master Yu's sincerity. Absolutely sincere. Yushu's voice suddenly became louder, his face filled with a warm smile. With a bang, he opened the wooden box beside him and said enthusiastically, "Brother Lung, please take a look. There are a total of 5-tier 2-spirit tools inside. Look at this spear, it's shiny silver. Wouldn't it blind the enemy's dog eyes with 1 stab? Also, this staff is not simple at all. It weighs more than 100 kilograms. If I kill you, I can still easily control the Yushu clan. However, I'm a very lazy person. I am too lazy to manage a force, and I'm also too lazy to run around and fight for resources every time. Do you understand?" "Understand. It sounds like I'm not at a disadvantage. However, you are letting me go just like that? You believe me?" Yushu still found it somewhat hard to believe that Lung Shiqi would let him go so easily. "Of course not. That is why you need to eat this." Lung Shiqi took out a black spirit pill as he spoke. It was the heart destruction pill. Yushu's heart thumped, and his expression instantly changed. After hesitating for a moment, he still received the pill. Although his life would be in Lung Shiqi's hands from now on, being at his mercy, but it was still better than losing his life now. But when he received the pill, he immediately shouted, "Ugh, what is this smell? Do you really want to eat it?" Lung Shiqi kept his mouth shut, and his expression gradually turned cold. "All right, I'll eat it all right," Yushu said as he pinched his nose and swallowed the pill. Following that, he clutched his neck and started retching. Lung Shiqi looked at him speechlessly and said, "All right, stop acting. Next, let's prepare for Mo Clan's attack." Mo Clan. Yushu went into a blank and immediately laughed out loud. "Haha, Mo, that two-faced, timid fellow. How would he have the guts to attack Yushu Clan?" Lung Shiqi's eyes flashed a glint of brilliance. "So, we must create an opportunity for him." Chapter 61. When Yushu returned to Yushu Clan, he wasn't alone. Beside him was a mysterious man wearing a large black cloak with a hood and a dark gold mask. Yushu clan members saw their clan leader inviting the mysterious man in warmly, and following that, he called Hua Lingling and Qi Shui over. Not long later, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui walked out furiously. Following that, Yushu announced that the newly joined Dark Crow would be the deputy clan leader of Yushu clan from today onwards. This person who came out of nowhere actually became the deputy clan leader. Many people in the clan had many complaints, but they kept it in their hearts and didn't dare to voice it out. On the second day, what no one expected was that Hua Lingling and Qi Shui actually brought people to leave Yushu clan, intending to set up their own clan. They even brought away half of the clan members. Yushu was seething with anger, but due to his serious injuries, he wasn't able to keep the 2 of them and could only threaten to tear them into pieces. There were even rumors that Yushu was so angry that he threw up several mouthfuls of blood, and his injuries seemed to have worsened. All sorts of unfavorable news towards Yushu clan kept on spreading. At this moment, in Yushu clan's clan leader's tent, Yushu was munching on fruits with a leisurely look on his face. There wasn't any look of him throwing up blood from anger. Beside him was a black figure sitting cross-legged. "Hey, Brother Long, can such a clumsy method really lure Moe over?" Yushu finished a fruit and asked the person beside him. That black figure was naturally Lung Shichi, who was using the identity of Dark Crow. Lung Shichi shot a glance at him and said, "The method doesn't matter if it's brilliant or clumsy, as long as it's effective. You must know that Mo had always been suppressed by you and Bailey Ching, so you don't know how much resentment he has in his heart. Right now, more than half of the Yushu clan's elites have died, and you're heavily injured. 2 of your pure spirit realm subordinates have set up their own clan. This was definitely the best opportunity to destroy the Yushu clan and unify the Withered Forest. Moreover, he didn't have much time to think about it, because the longer he delayed, the more his strength would recover. Therefore, even if he guessed that this might be a trap, he would still give it a try. Also, I'm now Dark Crow. Yes, Brother Dark Crow, but there's something I don't know if I should ask." Lung Shichi looked at Yushu and knew he couldn't ask anything good. He said, "Then don't ask." Cough. "Actually, I just want to know something. Didn't you say before that you wouldn't attack Mo Gate?" Yushu licked his lips and asked. "Back then, I had no enmity or grudge with Mo Gate. However, things are different now." "Oh, Mo Gate had offended you these 2 days?" Yushu was puzzled. Because these 2 days, he had been with Lung Shichi and hadn't met anyone from Mo Gate. Now that the Yushu clan has submitted to me, if Mo Gate attacks the Yushu clan, wouldn't that be sowing enmity with me? Lung Shichi said as a matter of fact. "Yushu, so you're even more shameless than me." Of course, Yushu didn't say this sentence out loud. Mo Gate. Mo was pacing back and forth. The expression on his face was cloudy and uncertain. His pure spirit realm subordinate, Mo too, persuaded, clan master. The situation is true. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui have betrayed the Yushu clan and intend to set up their own clan. They even brought away half of their men. Taking advantage of the fact that Yushu's injuries have yet to recover, this is the best chance to annihilate the Yushu clan. Mo was still hesitant. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui have betrayed us just because of a deputy clan master position. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Let me think about it again. Clan master. Opportunity knocks, but once. Have you forgotten how the Yushu clan had been suppressing us all this while? Have you forgotten how many of our men had died in the hands of the Yushu clan? Have you forgotten how arrogant and despotic Yushu used to point fingers in front of us? Mo too shouted angrily. Mo, you waved his hand impatiently. "I know what you're saying, but what if this is a trap?" Mo too's heart was filled with resentment as he continued. "So what if it's a trap? Does Clan Master think that after Yushu's injuries have fully recovered, he will coexist peacefully with us? When we surrounded and killed the Lung Shichi, Yushu had already hated us to the core. Rather than waiting for Yushu to regroup before finding trouble with us, why not strike first and gain the upper hand?" Mo stretched out his hand and pressed on Mo too's shoulder as he said in a deep voice, "Although that's the case, but don't forget that there's still the Lung Shichi. He's the sword hanging above Yushu's head at all times. Moreover, there's still the mess of Hua Lingling and Qi Shui, so he won't have the mood to deal with us. We just need to do what we did last time, sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight." At this moment, Mo too suddenly knelt down as his eyes shone brilliantly. "Clan Master, forgive me for being blunt. Of course we can sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. But if this goes on, when will the Mo clan become stronger? Why don't we grab hold of the opportunity and annihilate the Yushu clan, plunder their resources, and destroy Hua Lingling and Qi Shui? The Mo clan can then unify the Withered Forest." 1. Unify. Withered. Forest. These 4 words kept on churning in Mo's mind. Before this, he had never had such thoughts. But at this moment, he suddenly realized that he wasn't too far away from this step. Phew, He heaved a heavy sigh as though he had made a decision. Immediately gather all the men and set off immediately to annihilate the Yushu clan. Clan master is wise. Mo2 shouted excitedly. On the other side, in the Yushu clan. Clan master. A person suddenly ran into Yushu's tent and was about to speak when he glanced at Lung Shichi and gave Yushu a signal with his eyes. This is Vice Clan Master. If you have something to say, just say it. Yushu said seriously. Clan Master, something's happened. The Mo clansmen are here, and they've turned out in full force. Yushu turned his head and glanced at Lung Shichi as he thought, he's right. Following that, Yushu waved his hand and said, since you know that the Mo clansmen are here, why are you still in a daze? Quickly go and gather men to face the enemy. But that person's face revealed a difficult expression as he stammered, but there are only 30 over men left in the clan, and there are only 5 of them who are at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. Before he could finish his words, Yushu interrupted him. Gather as many men as you can. What's there to be afraid of? I have my own ways. Go. Yes. After that person left, Yushu came to Lung Shichi's side and smiled. Dark Crow brother is indeed brilliant. All right, act according to the plan. Today is the day you unify the withered forest. Lung Shichi said indifferently with his hands behind his back. Even though Yushu knew that he was being controlled by others, but the thought of being able to dominate the withered forest still made him excited. Following that, the two of them walked out of the tent one after another. At this moment, outside the Yushu clan's campsite, Mo led 60 over men from the Mo clan and stood at the entrance of the campsite, emitting an austere aura. In contrast, there were only 30 over men from the Yushu clan, and all of them had an uneasy look on their faces. Just based on numbers and morale, the Yushu clan had been completely defeated. At this moment, Yushu walked arrogantly to the front of the crowd and put on an unfathomable look as he shouted, Moe, are you here to send your men to their deaths? Chapter 62. Standing at the head of the crowd, Moe saw that Yushu was still so arrogant and his face sunk as he snapped. Yushu, you're still so stubborn even at death's door. Ha ha ha. There are many people who want to kill me. Perhaps one day I will be killed by someone, but that person will definitely not be you. And who gave you the confidence to take me down? Yushu continued to speak arrogantly. Mo, he turned his gaze towards the mysterious man who was shrouded in a black cloak. It was rumored that it was because of this person that caused Hua, Lingling, and Qi Shui to run away. That meant that this mysterious man was at least stronger than the both of them. Mo, he tried to sense the other party's cultivation, but the other party seemed to be intentionally controlling his spiritual energy, and he was unable to sense it accurately. This person was the real enemy. Mo, he didn't want to waste any more words with Yushu as he shouted, kill. Saying that, Moe and Mo2 led the charge and 60 over people followed closely behind. Moe's most wanted target was still Yushu. After all, he and Yushu were already mortal enemies. However, halfway through, the mysterious man stopped him. With a somewhat hoarse voice, he said, Sect Master Mo, your opponent is me. This mysterious man was naturally Lung Shichi. After Lung Shichi blocked Moe, he stretched out both his hands and instantly turned into pitch-black ghost claws as he waved it fiercely. Moe's spirit sword was unsheathed and directly slashed against the ghost claws, giving off a crisp ding sound. Lung Shichi didn't care about his opponent's sword and stretched out his arm. The ghost claws wrapped around Moe's arm and left 5 thin blood scars on his arm. Moe was shocked as he withdrew his sword and retreated. However, Lung Shichi didn't give him any chance to take a breather as he continued to press forward. He combined the Vine Entanglement Hand and close combat skills, pressuring Moe so much that he could only defend. Originally, these two spiritual skills' attacking power wasn't very strong, but combined with the Ghost Jade Claw, it was totally different. Just a touch would cause one to be injured. Fortunately, Mo Yi's swordsmanship was steady, and he leaned towards defense. After familiarizing himself with Lung Shiqi's attacking rhythm, he slowly stabilized himself. On the other side, Yushu was exchanging blows with Mo Tuesday. Yushu's cultivation was far superior to Mo 2's, but 2 days ago, he had been severely injured by Lung Shiqi, and it was the most difficult internal injury to recover from. At this moment, he was barely able to fight Mo 2 to a draw. However, Mo E and Mo 2 weren't in a hurry. Although they didn't have the upper hand in the battle, their subordinates had the upper hand. The Jet Black clan had twice the number of people, and there were more than 10 people who were at the 9th level of the Spirit Gathering realm, while the Yushu clan only had 5 people. In the battle between spirit cultivators of the Spirit Assembly realm, the Yushu clan was forced to retreat. Seeing this, Yushu's expression finally changed. After forcing Mo 2 back with a single move, he shouted, "Retreat, retreat quickly." Everyone could only hurriedly retreat, relying on some of the obstacles in the camp to support themselves. Lung Shiqi also found a chance to leave the battle and gathered with everyone. "Haha, Yushu, you've always boasted that you're smart, but you've actually made such a mistake. The more you retreat, the more you force yourself to the point where you have nowhere to escape." Mo E saw the Yushu clan shrinking into a corner with an uneasy look on their faces, and he laughed heartily. Mo 2 also laughed and teased. "That's right, forcing yourself to this point, letting us catch the turtle in the jar. Then you're the turtle." Ha ha ha. Everyone from the Jet Black clan laughed loudly. Ha! What no one had expected was that Yushu also laughed along. When Mo E saw Yushu laughing, he felt uncomfortable and said in a deep voice, "What are you laughing at?" "Catching the turtle in the jar. All right, today I'd like to see who's the turtle in the jar." Yushu's words had just ended when a sound of footsteps was heard from afar. Mo E instantly sensed that something was amiss and hurriedly turned back, only to see Hua Lingling and Qi Shui leading close to 30 people running over. Just nice. They blocked the camp's entrance tightly. Pincer attack from the front and back, attack from the back and abdomen. In a blink of an eye, the Jet Black clan people had become the turtle in the jar. Mo E and Mo 2 were shocked, and their faces turned pale. They knew that they had been tricked. Perhaps they had guessed that this was a trap, but they still stepped into it. They were betting that Hua Lingling and Qi Shui had really betrayed Yushu. If they won the bet, they would unify the withered forest. If they lost the bet, they would have a slim chance of survival. Mo E took a deep breath and shouted, "We haven't lost yet. Even if we add these people, our numbers are about the same. If we fight to the death, the outcome is still unknown." Yushu and Mo E had a tacit understanding at this moment, as they ordered, "Kill." With the addition of Hua Lingling, Qi Shui, and the rest, Yushu clan's side immediately gained the upper hand. Yushu continued to look for Mo 2, and while he was fighting, he was also scolding. Mo 2's face had long turned ashen. At this moment, Lung Shiqi stretched out a finger, and the spiritual light on his fingertip flickered as he pointed towards Mo E. Mo E placed his sword horizontally in front of him, intending to block this finger. However, when Lung Shiqi's finger touched the sword, it instantly gave off a ka-ka sound. Not only that, Mo E also felt a strong force coming over, forcing him to take 2 steps back. He lowered his head to take a look. Several very obvious cracks had actually appeared on his Tier 2 spirit sword. Pure Spirit Realm, 5th level. You're hiding your ability? You, who on earth are you? Mo Yi's expression changed again, and finally turned gloomy as he asked in a stern voice. "Dark Crow." Lung Shiqi spat out these 2 words, and following that, he struck out with his palm. This time, Mo Yi didn't dare to casually receive it and hurriedly evaded. Lung Shiqi twisted his body and sent out a kick. Following that, fist, palm, leg, exponential spiritual skills were displayed, beating Mo E till he didn't have any temper. After a while, his entire body was covered with injuries. "It's about time," Lung Shiqi muttered to himself. Mo, who was nearest to him, heard this sentence, and his heart quivered as an ominous premonition surged into his heart. Lung Shichi sent out another kick, but this time, he didn't use any spiritual skills, just an ordinary kick. Mo, barely managed to evade it, but the sense of crisis in his heart grew stronger. He saw that Lung Shichi didn't manage to land his kick and directly did a side somersault. When he was in midair, his right hand pulled out a sharp dagger from his ankle. Lung Shichi's dagger slashed towards Mo Yi's throat. At this critical moment, Mo didn't have time to do any other defense and could only use his left arm to protect his face. Ding! The dagger slashed against Mo Yi's left arm and actually gave off a metallic clanging sound. But Lung Shichi's expression didn't change because Mo Yi's body also leaned backwards. Lung Shichi's body moved and suddenly disappeared in front of Mo Yi's eyes. Mo Yi was horrified when he saw this, but before he could think further, a chill swiftly swept across his entire body from his neck. The last thing he saw was the strange blood-red dome in the sky and a man wearing a mask. The dagger in his hand was dripping with his blood. In the end, he still lost his own ambition. The moment Mo Gates' sect master died, the morale of the others immediately plummeted. Lung Shichi joined forces with Yushu to kill Mo too, and after that, he didn't make any more moves. Mo Gates' 2 pure spirit realm practitioners were already dead, and the only thing left was a massacre. He hurriedly replied, "Understood, understood." Lung Shichi nodded his head, and under the horrified gazes of the three, he sank into the ground and disappeared. After a long while, the three of them regained their senses. Hua Lingling's pretty face instantly turned green and white. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, if he wants to kill me, how should I guard against him?" Qi Shui's expression changed as if he thought of something and exclaimed, "Since he has such a method, he could have escaped when we surrounded him." "That's right, but he didn't. If he chose to escape, our Yushu clan wouldn't be where we are today," Yushu said with a complicated tone. Qi Shui asked, "Clan Master, there's something I don't understand. Why did Ling Shichi choose us? We fought to the death with him, and Mo clan never had any grudges with him. He could have chosen to help Mo clan destroy us. He could have secretly controlled Withered Forest." Yushu smiled proudly and said, "You don't understand. It's because we have a grudge with Lung Shichi that he chose us." "Why?" Hua Lingling was very puzzled. "Let me ask you, when you found out that Dark Crow was Lung Shichi, how did you feel?" "I was so scared that I thought I was going to die," Hua Lingling recalled, and her face was filled with fear. "But Lung Shichi didn't kill you. If he didn't kill you, you would have escaped death. This was more effective than any coercion. Moreover, he had always been a two-faced person. Since he could betray me and Bailey Qing, naturally he could also betray Lung Shichi. Of course, these aren't the most important. The most important thing is that I am very smart." Hua Lingling and Qi Shui nodded their heads in understanding, but automatically filtered out the last sentence. At this moment, Lung Shichi had returned to the cave. With a wave of his hand, Ziyu flew over. Lung Shichi checked carefully and found a knife mark on Ziyu's abdomen. Although the knife mark wasn't long, it was very deep. Previously, he had ordered Ziyu to stop the Yushu clan, and after it was injured, it returned to the cave. So these 2 days, he didn't bring Ziyu along, but let it recuperate here. After that, Lung Shichi rested for a period of time. For the past few days, he had been constantly scheming on how to maximize his gains. Moreover, the continuous battles had exhausted him physically and mentally. After resting for half a day, Lung Shichi stretched his body and opened the system. Name: Lung Shichi, Lu Xingji Cultivation, Pure Spirit Realm Level 5 Cultivation Method. 3rd Level Cultivation Method Demonic Beast Breaking Skill Bloodline. Spiritual Skills. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Rushing Thunder Sword Perfection. 1st Level Spiritual Skill revolving spear skill perfection, first level spiritual skill extreme, shadow knife skill perfection, first level spiritual skill boundless axe perfection, first level spiritual skill close combat skill perfection, second level spiritual skill wave breaking fist perfection, second level spiritual skill ghost archery perfection, level 2 spiritual skill gale / consummation special spiritual technique hand of the earth great perfection special spiritual technique chakra walk technique great perfection system coins 112. Looking at this list of spiritual techniques, Lung Shichi rubbed his chin in satisfaction. He didn't mention the ones that weren't ranked. There were as many as 16 first stage spiritual skills. There were also 3 second stage spiritual skills that were regarded as treasures. Furthermore, all of them were at the Great Circle realm. Most of the spiritual skills came from the collections of several forces, including the 100 or so system coins, which were obtained from raiding the Beilituan. However, Lung Shichi did not look very happy. Instead, he gradually frowned. He had the system, so he could cultivate his spiritual skills to the great perfection realm in an extremely short period of time. The saying of being greedy and not proficient did not apply to him. But there was still a problem, and that was chaos. He was proficient in everything from swords, spears, swords, axes, fists, palms, and legs. The advantage of having a variety of weapons was that they could deal with all kinds of enemies. The disadvantage was that none of them were particularly outstanding. For example, swordsmanship. If he didn't use Blossoming Lust, it would be difficult to defeat opponents of the same level with just Willow swordsmanship and Rushing Thundersword. It was the same in other aspects. What he needed to do next was to combine, or even fuse his spiritual techniques, just like how he had fused the mesmerizing flower eyes and the 3 waves tiger breaking fist. Next, he had 2 ideas. One was to combine his fists, palms, legs, and fingers into a set of spiritual skill combinations that were specialized for close combat. The other was to use the Gale Slash that Yushu had given him as the core and combine it into a sword technique. Chapter 64. Over the next few days, Lung Shichi entered a boring state of cultivation. Every day, he alternated between cultivating his spiritual power and spiritual techniques. He did not become complacent because he secretly controlled the withered forest. He knew that his true opponents were not those people. In terms of cultivation, because the spirit chi that Lung Shichi obtained from refining demonic blood was not pure, he didn't deliberately increase his cultivation during this period of time. Instead, he slowly polished his spirit force. In terms of spiritual techniques, the combination of close combat and killing techniques was beginning to take shape. He could switch between spiritual techniques more smoothly. In addition, Lung Shichi's understanding of sword techniques was deeper than his understanding of close combat. He used a rank 2 spiritual technique, Gale Slash, which was the stunning slash that Yushu used previously, as the core. He tried to merge the unranked 1-stage sword technique and the rank 1 gold splitting slash. Coincidentally, these 3 spiritual techniques only had 1 move, and the essence of each move was 1 word, slash. No matter how fancy you are, I only care about slashing with my sword. At this point, the fusion of these 3 spiritual skills had gradually reached a state of perfection. With a clear cultivation direction, Lung Shichi wholeheartedly immersed himself in cultivation. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. During this period, there were 2 eruptions of cultivation resources, but Lung Shichi did not fight for them. As long as the cultivation resources fell into the withered forest, they were all his. He only took the time to go to the Yushu clan twice to take some pills and spiritual stones for his own use. Then, he casually flipped through the 2 spiritual techniques and returned. On this day, Lung Shichi, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, he could feel that the surrounding spiritual power had suddenly become very violent. He could not cultivate at all. What happened? Lung Shichi frowned and got up. Not long after, a purple crow flew over. Lung Shiqi waved his hand, and Ziyu obediently flew onto his arm. Upon closer inspection, Ziyu's leg was tied with a thin strip of cloth. Lung Shiqi took it down and opened it. There was a sentence written inside. "Golden light has appeared. There might be a treasure." Lung Shiqi's palm moved, and a strip of cloth instantly turned into scraps of cloth. Lung Shiqi immediately brought Ziyu to the Jade Tree Gang. During this period of time, the Yushu clan had been developing very smoothly. Currently, the Yushu clan was the only force in Withered Forest. Many of the originally scattered Lone Rangers had chosen to join them. Other than that, there were also people from other regions who took the initiative to join the Yushu clan. The current Yushu clan had more than 100 members. Previously, Lung Shiqi had also asked Yushu to pass down the cultivation technique. With the cultivation technique, the strength of the Yushu clan was rapidly improving every day, ushering in a blowout-like explosion. In less than a month, there were more than 40 spirit cultivators at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. When Lung Shiqi came to the Yushu clan's tent with a wide cloak and a dark mask, there were already 7 people inside. In addition to Yushu, Hua Lingling, and Qi Shui, 4 more people had broken through to the pure spirit realm in this month. Seeing Lung Shiqi come in, Yushu greeted him, and the others respectfully shouted, "Deputy Clan Master." Lung Shiqi directly asked, "Clan Master, what's going on?" The 3 people who had just broken through to the pure spirit realm did not know Lung Shiqi's identity, so he still called Yushu Clan Master in front of others. Not long ago, a golden light suddenly burst out from the foot of the small mountain, and the heaven and earth spirit chi of the entire Blood Mist Island became restless. "I guess that some kind of heaven and earth treasure has appeared. No matter what it is, we must hurry over." Yushu replied, "Where is it? It's not far from here, and there are 2 or 3 regions between us. The nearby forces have probably already arrived." Yushu's voice carried a hint of anxiety. Lung Shiqi thought for a moment and said, "Clan Master, don't worry. We are relatively close. It won't be too late to set off after settling everything. Hua Lingling, go and settle our cultivation resources. Qi Shui, go and gather everyone and choose suitable people to stay behind." Yushu immediately ordered. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui received the order and left. The commotion this time is so big that I'm afraid the entire Blood Mist Island has been alarmed. When the time comes, there will be a lot of fighting, and I don't know how many people will die. Yushu suddenly became compassionate. Lung Shiqi glanced at him in surprise. Yushu continued, "Anyone can die, but the people of our Yushu clan can't die, especially you and the Vice Clan Master." The other 4 people were immediately moved. Lung Shiqi's eyes couldn't help but twitch. He seemed to vaguely hear Yushu's thoughts. "If you die, who will give me the antidote?" Not long after, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui returned. Everything had been arranged. Yushu nodded and said, "Good. Get ready to set off. But we can't go from the mountain. We have to go from the inside. You must give the order that we will pass through the misty area and the stone forest. Tell everyone to behave and don't get into conflict with the other factions." "Understood. I will give the order." Qi Shui nodded. "Let's go." Immediately after, the Yushu clan left some people behind, and the group of 80 or so people set off. In order to ensure that the camp wouldn't be destroyed after they left, Lung Shiqi deliberately left Ziyu behind to guard against unforeseen circumstances. At this time, at the border between the misty area and the stone forest, 2 groups of people were facing each other. The number of people on both sides was about the same, about 50 or so people. They were the 2 factions of the misty area, the Battle Sect and the Twin Heroes Hall. The Battle Sect's clan master, Zhang Jiga, was a strong young man with his arms exposed. His arms bulged with bulging muscles, and it looked like he was quite strong. At this moment, he crossed his arms and shouted, "Wu Qing, Wu Exen, what are you trying to do? You don't want to fight, and you don't want to retreat. Do you want to annoy me?" Wu Qing and Wu Exen's faces were 80% similar, and they looked like a pair of brothers. The slightly taller one was Wu Qing, and he was also the hall master of the Twin Heroes Hall. He said unhappily, "Zhan Jiga, I already said that the stone forest has been occupied by Blood Moon for almost 2 months. No one knows how much they've developed. If we want to pass through the stone forest smoothly, we must work together to ensure our safety." Zhan Jiga immediately said angrily, "Work together? Have you lost your mind? You killed a few of my brothers a few days ago, and now you want to work together? In your dreams." At this time, Wu Xian walked over. "Zhan Jiga, why are you still acting dumb? You know very well what we're talking about. If we continue to delay here, the treasures will have already been taken by others by the time we arrive. TCH, you're just afraid of Blood Moon, aren't you? What can a little girl do? Besides, Blood Moon's people are probably already there by now, so why would they stop us?" It was really baffling. Let's go our separate ways. What do you know? She's a crazy woman. She's capable of doing anything. Wu Qing suddenly shouted with a ferocious expression, as if Delta Orgy had left a terrible impression on him. Just as the two sides were arguing, a series of hurried footsteps gradually came from afar. Chapter 65. While the battle sect and the dual heroes hall were still arguing, a group of foreign forces arrived. The leader was a handsome and elegant young man, and there were more than 80 people following behind him. Zhan Jiga sensed the cultivation of the leader and found that he was at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. He was 1 level higher than him. When he looked back, he saw 7 pure spirit realm experts standing behind him. Zhan Jiga's expression changed slightly, and he couldn't help but frown. Wu Qing and Wu Xian looked at each other and saw a bit of surprise in each other's eyes. They silently retreated to their own side. This force was naturally the Yushu clan that had hurried over. Yushu saw many people gathered there from a distance and stopped. He raised his hand, and the people behind him also stopped. Seeing that they were all hostile, Yushu also became vigilant. Lung Shiqi walked to Yushu and said, "I stayed in the fog area for a few days before. They're the battle sect and the dual heroes hall of the fog area. However, I don't know their specific cultivation and strength." Yushu said, "I know the battle sect quite well. Bailey Qing has been in contact with the battle sect several times before. I was afraid that he would stir up trouble, so I secretly inquired about the battle sect." Yushu stopped and looked at Lung Shiqi. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "Back then, the news of your strength increasing greatly was obtained by Bailey Qing from the battle gate." "Get to the point," Lung Shiqi said indifferently. "Cough. The battle sect master is called Zhan Jiga, 4th level of the pure spirit realm. The cultivation method he cultivates is a bit strange. He is very strong, and his physical defense is also very high. He doesn't use any weapons and only relies on his fists. As for the dual heroes hall, I haven't been in contact with them, so I don't know much about them." Lung Shiqi couldn't help but glance at Zhan Jiga and then said, "They shouldn't be stopping us. Let's go and see if we can pass. Try not to get into a conflict." Yushu nodded when he heard that. He walked forward and greeted them politely. "So, it's a friend from the battle sect and Twin Heroes Hall. I am Yushu from the Yushu clan." Yushu clan, Yushu, Wuqing, Wuxin, and Zhan Jiga were all shocked. The withered forest and the misty area could be considered neighbors, so they more or less knew what was going on there. They all knew that the Yushu clan had dominated the withered forest more than a month ago. However, they did not expect the Yushu clan to be so powerful. In the crowd of people from the battle sect, a dark-faced youth's expression changed. He took a few steps back and hid in the crowd. Yushu continued, "I believe that all of you have gathered here to seize the treasure. Why don't we go together?" Hearing this, Wuqing and Wuxin both nodded inwardly. However, at this time, a handsome young man led a group of people forward. When the forces at the back saw that this force had a large number of people and had many pure spirit realm experts, they naturally did not dare to stop them. However, they all had expressions of watching a good show, because the forces at the front could not stand it anymore. When Yushu led his group halfway, a man and a woman stood out and stopped him. Silver Ring Village, Bone Ring. Green Lotus Gang, Green Lotus. Yushu understood. On the way here, he had exchanged information with Zhang Jiga and the others. He learned that the two forces that originally existed in the wetlands were the Silver Ring Village and the Green Lotus Gang. The Golden Light landed near the wetlands, and they could be said to have a geographical advantage. They quickly reached a consensus to abandon their old grudges and join forces to occupy the best position. As the saying went, a strong dragon could not suppress a snake in its old haunts. However, in front of a rare treasure, these two local snakes were still suppressed by a strong dragon. And there were 3 of them. At this moment, the 3 forces closest to the front were the Thousand Mountain Alliance, Seiji, and Blood Moon. They were all major forces that dominated a region. They had also forcibly broken through the blockade of the Silver Ring Village and the Green Lotus Gang to occupy the best position. As landlords, they had long lost face, but now there was a 4th dragon. Yushu clan Yushu. Yushu had his hands behind his back, looking as if he did not put the other party in his eyes. The faces of Bone Ring and Green Lotus became even darker. Bone Ring said in a deep voice, "Yushu clan, you want to go over? Then let's see if you have the ability." After saying that, Bone Ring and Green Lotus waved their hands at the same time, and 6 people walked out of the crowd one after another. All of them were at the pure spirit realm. Yushu chuckled and waved his hand like them. The 7 people behind him stepped forward at the same time and released their spirit chi. Including him, there were 8 pure spirit realm spirit cultivators. Among them, there were even 2 at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 66. The 8 pure spirit realm experts of the Yushu clan all released their spirit chi, especially Yushu and Lung Shichi, who were at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Gu Huan and Qing Lian's faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. Everyone had the same number of pure spirit realm experts, but they were only at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm. How could they fight against someone at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm? If it was a life and death battle, they might not be afraid, but if it was only a battle of victory, their chances of winning were very small. I wonder if we have the qualifications to go, Yushu said with a smile. Gu Huan and Qing Lian looked at each other and could only helplessly retreat in the end. Yushu laughed and continued to lead the group forward. As he walked, he cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me win." The words arrogant and despotic were written all over his face. "Hey everyone, nice to meet you." Yushu led the group to the front and greeted the people of the other 3 forces warmly. The leader of the Thousand Mountains Alliance, Hen Qianshan, nodded with a fake smile. The commissioner of the Seiji, Hungming, had an indifferent expression. As for the Moon Lord of the Blood Moon, Delta Origi, she closed her eyes and rested from beginning to end. She had no intention of paying attention to him. Yushu awkwardly rubbed his nose and led the group to an open space to settle down. After a while, Yushu came to Lung Shichi's side and said in a low voice, "Brother Dark Crow, aren't we being too high profile by doing this? Sometimes being high profile will bring us some trouble, but it will also help us avoid more trouble. For example, it will be very convenient for you to send people to gather information now." Lung Shichi replied. Yushu shrugged and said, "All right." On the other side, in the Blood Moon's group, Achin saw everything that just happened. When he saw the masked black figure, his whole body trembled. Then, he respectfully walked to Delta Origi and whispered, "I'm sorry. Moon Mistress, look at that person. Isn't that the one who helped us destroy the Supreme Union last time?" Delta Origi suddenly opened her eyes and locked her gaze on Lung Shichi. Lung Shichi felt Delta Origi's gaze and silently looked at her before turning his head away. Delta Origi's eyes flashed with a few rays of light, and she said indifferently, "No." Yushu also noticed Delta Origi's gaze. His eyes darted back and forth between the 2 of them, revealing a meaningful expression. No one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, Another wave of discussion came from not far away. Lung Shiqi raised his head and looked over, only to see 3 more forces arriving one after another. Fortunately, these 3 forces were not very strong. They only had about 60 people. But what followed closely behind was another dragon crossing the river. A team of more than 100 people gradually walked over. The person in the lead was wearing a blood-red, tight-fitting martial suit and carrying a pitch-black spear on his back. He did not hide his cultivation aura at all. 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Everyone's expression changed, especially the leaders of the forces at the front. They were all at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. When they saw that there were 2 5th level of the pure spirit realm in the Yushu clan, they still felt a huge pressure. But at this moment, a 6th level of the pure spirit realm had appeared. Now, more than 90% of the spirit cultivators on the entire Blood Fog Island had gathered here. In terms of cultivation alone, this person deserved to be the number 1 person on the Blood Fog Island. It's the Blood Sea cult. The Blood Sea cult actually sent so many people. Did they come out in full force? Shui Wuhai is actually already at the 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Is there anyone with a higher cultivation than him on the Blood Fog Island? The appearance of the Blood Sea cult and Shui Wuhai immediately caused an uproar among the crowd as they discussed in low voices. Lung Shiqi could not help but take a few more glances at Shui Wuhai. To be able to cultivate to the 6th level of the pure spirit realm at this stage, he either had a rank 3 cultivation technique or had some fortuitous encounter. One had to know that Lung Shiqi had the rank 3 cultivation technique, Beast Origin Demonic Destruction Technique, and refined the demon blood of several rank 1 demonic beasts. Now, he was still stuck at the peak of the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Of course, there was also the reason why Lung Shiqi did not deliberately increase his cultivation, but instead solidified his foundation. Otherwise, Lung Shiqi would have already broken through to the 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Hearing the exclamations of the crowd, Shui Wuhai's face could not help but reveal a smug expression as he led his people forward casually. Gu Huan and Qing Lian's faces were already dark to the point of turning purple. This time, they did not stand out to stop him because they knew that they could not stop him. There was only to go up and embarrass themselves. Shui Wuhai led more than 100 people to the front. The place, which was not very big to begin with, suddenly became crowded. Shui Wuhai's gaze swept across the other leaders one by one, revealing a provocative expression. However, no one paid any attention to him. They only laughed contemptuously, minding their own business as they settled their subordinates. At this time, Lung Shiqi had been observing the large golden light. Now that he was close enough, he could clearly see that the golden light covered an area of about a few hundred feet. Because the golden light was too bright, he could not see what was inside. At this time, the people that Yushu had sent out to inquire about the news had also returned. There were mainly 2 aspects of the news. On the one hand, it was about the various forces present. At this moment, there were already a total of 16 forces gathered here. The relationship between these forces, their strength, the cultivation of the leaders, and the spirit skills that they were good at, etc. On the other hand, it was about the golden light. It was said that this golden light appeared very suddenly, and there were no signs at all. After the golden light appeared, a few spirit cultivators who did not care about their lives tried to break in. However, as soon as they got close, they were surrounded by a ball of golden light and exploded. From then on, no one dared to barge in. More importantly, this ball of golden light would slowly fade with time. Lung Shiqi and the others had just arrived, so they naturally could not see any changes. However, those who had been waiting for an entire day had discovered this phenomenon. This is deliberately waiting for everyone to gather here. Lung Shiqi thought to himself after hearing the news. Thinking that all of this was deliberately arranged by someone, he understood that this was a trap for everyone to kill each other. In the past 3 months since the heavenly collapse, the spirit cultivators on Blood Mist Island had become smarter and smarter. They had formed their own forces to fight against the demon beasts and compete for resources. Every time they competed for resources, they rarely fought to the death. Instead, they used the form of gambling to resolve conflicts. This way, for the spirit cultivators, they could reduce the number of deaths and obtain cultivation resources at the same time. Especially for the Yushu clan, Blood Moon, and a few other forces that had already dominated an area, every time there was an eruption of resources, there would no longer be a conflict, because all the resources belonged to them. Under such circumstances, the number of battles on Blood Mist Island was slowly decreasing. But this situation was not a good thing for the people who were controlling all of this. They did not want to see everyone get along well, but they wanted to see everyone kill each other. Lung Shiqi felt that this matter was definitely dangerous beyond imagination. Chapter 67. When Lung Shiqi thought of this, he warned himself to be extremely vigilant. Then he found a rock and sat down cross-legged. He closed his eyes and rested. He had to ensure that he was at his peak state at all times. Time slowly passed, and the golden light at the foot of the mountain gradually weakened. On the second day, the golden light had clearly dimmed a lot. At this speed, it would completely dissipate in about half a day. During this time, 3 more forces arrived. They were neither strong nor weak, so they didn't cause much of a commotion. As of now, there were as many as 19 forces gathered here. At a rough glance, there were about 200 to 300 people gathered here. More than 90% of the people on Bloodfog Island were here. This could be considered a grand meeting. This was because everyone usually stayed in a certain area. Even the strongest few forces would not easily cross over to another area. It could be said that kings didn't meet kings. At this moment, regardless of the size of the forces, everyone was gathered here. Moreover, as far as the eye could see, all of them were elites among elites. Back then, more than 10,000 children were captured and brought to Bloodfog Island. Now, after 1 year and 3 months, only these children were left. Less than 10% were left. How many would be left after this battle? Of course, no one would sigh at this time, because after the golden light dimmed, the situation inside could be roughly seen. In particular, the Yushu clan's strongest forces could see more clearly. Lung Shiqi's eyes focused. Through the thin layer of golden light, he could barely see that there seemed to be many monsters inside. However, the strange thing was that the monsters were all motionless, as if they didn't have any life. Looking further in, there were monsters of all shapes and sizes. In the innermost area, there were 3 tall figures. In the middle of the 3 figures, there was a golden ball of light the size of a head. The golden light that everyone saw was emitted from that ball of light. At this moment, everyone stared at the golden ball of light with blazing eyes. They all raised their weapons, and the spiritual power in their bodies began to flow slowly. The people of each force slowly moved forward, and the atmosphere in the area suddenly became tense. At this time, Lung Shiqi said to Yushu, "How is that matter going?" "Yes, I have already secretly allied with 3 small and medium-sized forces, including the Twin Heroes Hall," Yushu said seriously. "Sure, but you can't trust these people so easily." "Of course. All we need to do is wait. Tell everyone to prepare for battle at any time," Lung Shiqi ordered. Understood. It wasn't just the Yushu clan. All the other forces were doing the same thing. In the end, everyone could only wait. 2 hours later, the golden light grew dimmer. For hours later, only the last layer of golden light remained. Everyone could clearly see that those demonic beasts were actually wooden puppets. These puppets were of different shapes and numbers. The outermost lion puppets numbered more than 300. The inner layer had dozens of ape-shaped puppets. There were a total of 13 humanoid puppets in the center. 10 of them were the size of a normal person, while the other 3 were over 10 feet tall. More importantly, all the puppets had a round light ball embedded in them. Sealed in the light ball were all kinds of cultivation resources. At the 6th hour, there was a soft crack sound, and the golden light completely shattered. At this moment, everyone was ready to charge forward. Lung Shiqi stared at the puppet's every move. The moment the golden light completely shattered, he sensed a change in the lion puppets on the outermost layer. Their originally empty eyes suddenly lit up with 2 green spots of light. Then, there was a series of crack sounds. The lion puppets opened their mouths and woke up. Lung Shiqi's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly shouted, "Retreat!" Hearing this, Yushu seemed to have thought of something and immediately gave the order. The Yushu clan immediately retreated. The other forces at the front were a little confused. Even if there were many puppets in front, they didn't look very strong. Why did they retreat? The Delta Origi hesitated for a moment and didn't make a move. At this moment, to everyone's surprise, the hundreds of lion puppets all opened their mouths, and a black arrow appeared in their mouths. In the next moment, a total of 300 sharp arrows flew towards them. Not good. Retreat. Retreat. The cult of the Blood Sea, Thousand Mountains Alliance, and Seiji hurriedly retreated. It was a mess. However, the rain of arrows had already fallen. Screams suddenly became the main melody of this area. Fortunately, the Yushu clan retreated early. When the rain of arrows came over, most of them were blocked by the other forces. The remaining ones were blocked by Lung Shiqi and the other 8 pure spirit realm cultivators. Only a few people were accidentally injured, but no one died. The Blood Moon situation was slightly better, but there were still about 10 to 20 casualties. The people from the cult of the Blood Sea, Thousand Mountains Alliance, and Seiji suffered the most. They could be said to have been hit by the rain of arrows head-on and suffered heavy casualties. A sudden volley of arrows easily took the lives of over 100 people, and even more were injured. On the contrary, the forces at the back didn't suffer any damage at all. At this moment, they were all showing expressions of schadenfreude. The fact that the previous 5 forces had forcefully occupied the front row had already caused the others to be dissatisfied. However, they were not as strong as others, so they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. However, it was different now. After the rain of arrows, those forces lost a lot of people. In terms of numbers, they no longer had any advantage. Since that was the case, who would give them face? The dozen or so forces at the back directly swarmed forward, and the situation suddenly went out of control. At this time, everyone only had one thought, and that was to charge forward. Blood Marshal C was furious because 30 to 40 of his subordinates were killed or injured. He took the lead and suddenly stomped his feet, creating a small pit in the ground. Then, his body flew out like a sharp arrow leaving the bow. The black spear flickered with spirit energy and thrust forward. With a pong sound, a lion-shaped puppet was instantly destroyed by his attack. Broken pieces of wood and sawdust scattered all over the ground. Blood Marshal C smashed the ball of light that fell from the puppet with one hand and took out a small white bottle. Spirit Gathering Pill. The Spirit Gathering Pill was a pill that could help Spirit Gathering Realm cultivators quickly increase their cultivation. Refining a pill was more effective than absorbing a spirit stone. Blood Marshal C curled his lips, obviously looking down on this thing. Then, he threw it to the people behind him and continued to charge forward, heading straight for the ape-shaped puppets at the back. At this time, Lung Shiqi also smashed a lion-shaped puppet with a few moves and obtained an unranked spirit technique from it. He frowned slightly. At this time, a sentence appeared in his mind. Killing monsters to drop materials. Chapter 68. Lung Shiqi sensed that the strength of these lion-shaped puppets was equivalent to a spirit cultivator at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm, and the items that dropped were of no use to him at the pure spirit realm. Thus, he also locked his gaze on the taller ape-shaped puppets. Shui Wuhai and Lung Shiqi were not the only ones who had this idea. Almost all the spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm were the same. Yushu left behind 2 pure spirit realm cultivators, and then, together with Lung Shiqi, Hua Lingling, and the others, they forcefully broke through the lion-shaped puppets and rushed towards the ape-shaped puppets. The spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm among the 19 forces immediately reacted. Immediately after, as many as 100 spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm tore open holes in the lion-shaped puppets and rushed them into a mess. However, they did not fight for the light balls that fell. These light balls were naturally left for the remaining spirit gathering realm cultivators to fight for. And among the spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm, the leaders of the major forces were the fastest. Because they were basically all at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, these lion-shaped puppets could not stop them at all. Shui Wuhai was still at the front, followed by Hen Qianshan, Meng Ming, Delta Orgi, Yushu, and Long Shiqi. The few of them were like a sharp knife that fiercely tore open a big hole and got rid of the lion-shaped puppets. However, at this time, these people suddenly stopped in their tracks. It was because the eyes of the ape-shaped puppets had also lit up. The difference was that they were shining with a blue light. And they all opened their mouths. Lung Shiqi and the others immediately stopped moving forward and carefully guarded, afraid that these ape-shaped puppets would shoot arrows like the lion-shaped puppets. Roar! The dozens of ape-shaped puppets did not shoot arrows, but instead roared out deafening roars. Many ape-shaped puppets roared at the same time, and waves of invisible sound waves rippled out. Lung Shiqi and the others hurriedly circulated their spirit energy to resist, and only then did they feel better. These roars did not have much of an effect on them, but it was different for the spirit gathering realm cultivators. Originally, it was rather easy for the thousands of spirit cultivators of the spirit assembly realm to surround and kill the lion puppet. First of all, they had a huge advantage in terms of numbers. Furthermore, the over 300 lion-shaped puppets had already been scattered by the spirit cultivator-s of the pure spirit realm. Basically, it was 3 or 4 people dealing with a single lion-shaped puppet. There was no pressure at all. However, the sound waves from the dozens of ape-shaped puppets suddenly reverberated, catching all of the spirit-gathering cultivators off guard. Some of them even froze on the spot. Blood splattered everywhere in the crowd. Chaos ensued. After a short delay, the spirit cultivator-s of the pure spirit realm also rushed out and gathered together in groups of 3 or 5. At this moment, dozens of ape puppets had already pounced over. On this side, more than 100 spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm did not show any weakness. Instead, they took the initiative to charge forward. The 6 people from Lung Shiqi's side were divided into 4 groups. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui were in a group of 2, while Lung Shiqi and Yushu were in a group of 1. Lung Shiqi's feet moved continuously. His figure was as fast as the wind as he stuck close to the ape puppet's side and immediately punched out. Roar! The fist landed on the side of the ape puppet's ribs and actually let out a tiger's roar. It was the howling tiger fist. However, what surprised Lung Shiqi was that his howling tiger fist, which was at the great perfection stage, only left a small fist-sized hole in the ape puppet's body. So hard, Lung Shiqi was secretly shocked. The ape puppet did not feel anything at all. It waved its arm and smashed down heavily. This time, Lung Shiqi did not dodge. With a thought, his hands turned into pitch-black ghost claws. He did not dodge or give way, and forcibly received the attack. Qi. Lung Shiqi only felt a powerful force attacking him. Although he had already prepared for it, he was still repelled. His feet drew a long mark in the wetland. Lung Shiqi clenched his somewhat numb hands and thought, this ape puppet's casual attack is so strong, and at the same time, it is not afraid of being injured at all. I'm afraid its comprehensive strength is not weaker than the black-haired bear, but their weakness is also the same. Their speed is too slow. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi naturally knew what to do. He immediately used the 100 Ghosts Night Parade, and a layer of faint black mist wrapped around his feet. Under the cover of the black cloak, it was almost impossible to see. With his zung sound, the third-rank spirit sword was unsheathed. He took a step forward and instantly jumped out. At this time, the ape puppet swung its fist down. Lung Shiqi suddenly turned his body halfway and just happened to avoid the punch. At the same time, Lung Shiqi's spirit sword moved continuously, leaving a few deep sword marks on the ape puppet's back. Because his current identity was Dark Crow, during the whole process, Lung Shiqi did not use the confusing footwork and sword art spiritual skill. However, with only the basic sword art and the sharpness of the third-rank spirit sword, it did not take long for the ape puppet to be cut into pieces. Fortunately, these ape puppets did not have intelligence. If they were monsters, he would not be so relaxed. Then, Lung Shiqi picked up the light ball that fell on the ground, crushed it, and took out a rank 1 cultivation technique. Lung Shiqi did not even look at it. He directly stuffed it into his arms and continued to look for the next target. Not only Lung Shiqi, as long as it was a spirit cultivator above the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, sooner or later, they would get rid of an ape puppet, but the things they obtained did not seem to be very satisfactory. However, it was still better than the things dropped by the lion-type puppet. As this group of people found their targets again, the number of ape puppets was gradually decreasing. On the other side, although the spirit cultivators of the spirit gathering realm had just been caught off guard, they quickly reacted and supported each other, stabilizing the situation. There were even a few scattered spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm who came to the front to support. Slowly, whether it was the lion-type puppet or the ape puppet, they were all retreating. When there was only about half of the ape puppet left, the 10 humanoid puppets at the back woke up. The 10 humanoid puppets had different lights in their eyes. They raised their arms one after another with their palms facing outwards. In the next moment, fireballs, wind blades, ice thorns, water bullets cut through the sky and quickly flew into the crowd. "Ah, no! Save me! Save me!" A series of screams rose and fell. The fireballs smashed onto their bodies and began to burn crazily, unable to be extinguished. The ice thorns entered their bodies, and their entire bodies gradually turned into ice. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and their eyes were more or less filled with shock. What is that? It seems to be a legendary spiritual skill. Is it a spirit mage? It should be a spirit mage puppet. Lung Shiqi narrowed his eyes as he glanced at the 10 spirit mage puppets. What they used just now must be a spiritual skill. Lung Shiqi himself also had a spiritual skill, which was the Centipede Curse. However, this spiritual skill did not have a direct attack. On the other hand, the spiritual skill that the spirit mage puppets had used just now had landed on the spirit cultivator's body. Even if they did not die, they would be crippled. He could not help but feel a sense of loss in his heart. Chapter 69. Yushu jumped to Lung Shiqi's side, pointed at the soul master puppets, and said with a heavy expression, "Those things are too dangerous. We have to think of a way to get rid of them first." Lung Shiqi nodded and said, "That's right, but such a dangerous thing can't be done by us alone. We have to get a few helpers." Yushu understood and immediately shouted, Hey, I say, brothers, we are all sensible people. Let's work together to get rid of those human-shaped puppets first." After experiencing a round of arrow rain, the other 4 forces had more or less suffered some damage, and only the Yushu clan still maintained the highest battle strength. At this moment, Yushu had a very high right to speak. Many people agreed with his idea, but the various forces could not trust each other, and for a moment, everyone hesitated. However, just as they were hesitating, the 10 human-shaped puppets raised their hands again, and 10 spells blasted over again. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly dodged, but there were still 6 or 7 people who died on the spot. One of them was a new pure spirit realm cultivator from the Yushu clan. Yushu immediately grimaced. "What are you still hesitating for? Do you still want to be a live target here? Take advantage of the fact that they can't immediately attack again, gather the strongest battle strength, and rush over." This time, no one hesitated anymore, and the leaders of the various forces stood out. 19 forces, 22 people stood out. These 22 people were all at the middle stage of the pure spirit realm. It could be said that they were the strongest group of people on the entire Bloodfog Island. Everyone did not need to trust each other. They just needed to rush over as soon as possible and get rid of the Soul Master puppets before the next spell was activated. Of course, they all had one goal, and that was that since the human-shaped puppets were so strong, their things would definitely be better. At this time, the ape-shaped puppets moved and actually protected the 10 Soul Master puppets behind them. "Charge!" Yushu shouted, and the 22 cultivators at the middle stage of the pure spirit realm moved. Lung Shiqi and Yushu glanced at each other. Soon after, the two of them separated and went around from the side. Shui Wuhai was still leading the charge. His moves were large and powerful, and their might was shocking. He was most suited for charging and killing. He rushed over and fiercely stabbed his spear into the abdomen of the ape-shaped puppet, forcibly creating a large hole. Delta Origi followed closely behind. With a shake of her silver sword, she transformed into dozens of silver snakes that filled the sky, instantly leaving dozens of sword marks on the ape-shaped puppet. Hen Qianshan used a giant axe. He raised the axe high above his head, and the blade of the axe lit up with spiritual light. Boom! The giant axe fell, directly smashing the ape-shaped puppet's head into pieces. With the three of them working together, they actually managed to finish off an ape-shaped puppet in just a few moves. However, after the three of them exploded, they were somewhat lacking in stamina. But at this time, the people behind them took over. Meng Ming stretched out his arms and drew a ferocious fist blade from his sleeves. With a light leap, he leaped 3 meters away. He easily dodged the ape-shaped puppet's attack and cut off a large piece of wood from a strange angle. Zhang Zhiga, on the other hand, threw out a punch without any skill, but this punch knocked the ape-shaped puppet to the ground. Then, another 2 people attacked and killed another ape-shaped puppet. This group of people worked together and used their terrifying speed to kill one ape-shaped puppet after another, directly going deep into the group of puppets. However, they did not care about the ape-shaped puppets at all, because those puppets were all blocked by the dozens of pure spirit realm cultivators behind them. At this time, the hands of the 10 humanoid puppets began to gather different colored spiritual lights. However, there was still an ape-shaped puppet in front of everyone. At this moment, 2 figures rushed over from the left and right, and the moment they got close to the ape-shaped puppet, whoosh! 2 saber lights that were like waterfalls slashed out at the same time. The saber lights formed a fork under the blood-colored sky, stunning everyone. And the ape-shaped puppet was instantly shattered into pieces. The 2 people who attacked were Lung Shiqi and Yushu. They used Gale Slash at the same time to instantly kill the puppet. When the ape-shaped puppet fell to the ground, the 22 people successfully broke out of the puppet group in an extremely short period of time. However, the humanoid puppets had already raised their hands, and their spiritual techniques could be activated again at any time. Get out of the way. At this time, everyone could only choose to dodge. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 10 spiritual techniques were released. One of the ice spikes was flying towards Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi's expression changed slightly. He had never had the experience of dealing with spiritual techniques, and he could not use the confusion footwork. At this critical moment, Lung Shiqi could only kick out a few puppet fragments under his feet. The fragments collided with the ice spikes and were instantly frozen, then shattered into ice shards. Hiss! Lung Shiqi saw this and secretly took a deep breath. He clearly did not expect the ice spikes to be so domineering. However, he could not help but be surprised because the ice spikes were already in front of him. Lung Shiqi was quick-witted and quickly used the Hand of the Earth. The next moment, a door-sized earth wall rose from the ground and blocked the ice spikes. The Hand of the Earth was an intermediate prize. Lung Shiqi had it for a long time, and he had been constantly developing the Hand of the Earth. Today, after witnessing the true power of spiritual techniques, Lung Shiqi seemed to have opened a new path and had a deeper understanding of the Hand of the Earth. Of course, Lung Shiqi did not have time to think too much. Although the earth wall blocked the ice spikes, the bone-chilling cold still hit him. The cold entered his body and instantly made him feel cold. Not only his body, but even his meridians were aching. Lung Shiqi hurriedly circulated his spirit qi to expel the cold before he felt better. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. A small ice spike has such terrifying power. After a round of spiritual techniques, 3 of the spirit cultivators in the middle stage of the pure spirit realm died, and a few were injured. Among the targets, only Lung Shiqi and Shui Wuhai were unharmed. Unfortunately, Lung Shiqi only cared about himself and did not pay attention to how Shui Wuhai blocked the spiritual techniques. At this time, everyone's heart moved and thought to themselves, opportunity, attack. Immediately, the remaining 19 people directly rushed towards the humanoid puppets. Among them, Xiongming's speed suddenly increased by a large margin. It was obvious that he also had a movement-type spiritual technique. Lung Shiqi used the ghost parade and caught up, only falling behind Xiongming. Bang bang! Lung Shiqi flew at top speed and slashed out a blade shadow, enveloping the humanoid puppet and turning it into a pile of fragments in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Xiongming also took care of a humanoid puppet in an instant. The human-shaped puppet's defense was far inferior to the ape-shaped puppets and even the lion-shaped puppets. Lung Shiqi reached out and picked up a light ball and took out a small white bottle. There were 3 words written on it: Pure Spirit Pill. Chapter 70. The Pure Spirit Pill was a pill that could help spirit cultivators in the pure spirit realm quickly purify their spirit energy. A single pure spirit pill was equivalent to 10 days of bitter cultivation by Lung Shiqi. Moreover, the spirit energy obtained was very pure, unlike refining demon blood, which would cause one's foundation to be unstable. It was definitely a good thing. Lung Shiqi shook it lightly. There were actually 3 pure spirit pills inside, and he couldn't help but feel slightly happy. However, at this time, Lung Shiqi suddenly had a few doubts in his heart and faintly felt that something was wrong. But for a moment, he couldn't figure out what was wrong. The others naturally saw that both Lung Shiqi and Xiongming had gained something, and they were all anxious in their hearts. After all, there were only 10 humanoid puppets, and there were nearly 20 of them. The third to arrive was Delta Origi. She had also forcefully used her confusion movement technique to rush over, and was as strong as a ball of light. Shui Wuhai, Yu Shu, and Hen Qianshan, who came later, all had gains. Just as the dozen or so people behind were about to take action, a sudden change occurred. Not far behind the humanoid puppets, the 3 giant puppets that were 3 meters tall began to move. The 3 giant puppets held heavy halberds, battle sabers, and spears respectively, and their eyes emitted a few inches of golden light. They only took a step forward, and everyone felt a slight tremor on the ground. Seeing that the 3 giant puppets had awakened, everyone stopped in their tracks and hurriedly retreated. However, the 3 giant puppets raised the weapons in their hands high up in the air. In an instant, a dazzling golden light bloomed. Immediately after, the ground trembled, and rays of golden light shot out from the ground, intersecting with the golden light in the air. In the blink of an eye, a golden light barrier was formed, enveloping Lung Shiqi and the other 20 people. Not only that, the ground in the distance was also bursting with golden light, forming another light barrier that enveloped the nearly 100 pure spirit realm cultivators behind them. 2 golden lights, one big and one small, separated everyone. Dong! Hen Qianshan's giant axe suddenly landed on the golden light barrier, producing a muffled sound. However, the golden light did not move. When Lung Shiqi and the others saw this, their faces darkened. They were trapped. Lung Shiqi's eyes flashed. He finally realized what was wrong. It was too smooth. These puppets were actually not weak, but with more than 90% of the spirit cultivator S gathered here, Just the numbers alone were enough to crush them, especially for spirit cultivator of the pure spirit realm like them. From the lion-shaped puppet to the ape-shaped puppet, it could be said that they had killed their way out. He had more or less gained some benefits from it. What about the losses? Apart from the first round of arrows and sound waves that caused some deaths and injuries, only the human-shaped puppet spirit technique had killed more than a dozen pure spirit realm spirit cultivators. If this continued, it wouldn't be a problem for him to face the three giant puppets. Because at this moment, even the weakest person standing here was at the fourth layer of the pure spirit realm. Moreover, they were all leaders of their respective forces. Which one of them didn't have a trump card? It wouldn't be difficult for these people to defeat the three giant puppets if they worked together. Not only did they not suffer much damage, but they also obtained a large amount of cultivation resources. What was the purpose of the person behind this? Was she here purely to give him warmth? Or was she counting on this little bit of resources to make everyone kill each other? One had to know that those who could live until now were all shrewd people. If it was an extremely precious resource, it was possible for them to fight over it until their heads bled. But from the looks of it, such a treasure had yet to appear. At this moment, when these two light shields appeared, Lung Shiqi knew that the previous ones were just appetizers. The real danger had yet to appear. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Lung Shiqi was deep in thought, the roars of demon beasts could be heard from afar. Looking from afar, dozens of rank 1 demon beasts of different shapes were walking over step by step with scarlet eyes. And their targets were the spirit-gathering realm spirit cultivators at the outermost perimeter. Then, in another large light shield, a huge array formation suddenly lit up on the ground. Nearly 100 ape-shaped puppets rose from the array. Lung Shiqi's expression became heavier and heavier. What would greet them? Buzz. An array formation also lit up beneath their feet, and then a strangely shaped demonic beast drilled its way out. The reason why the demon beast was said to be strange was because it had a pair of incomparably thick legs that supported it to stand. The 4 limbs on it were arms of different sizes and shapes, and its entire back was covered with ferocious barbs. As for the head, it was completely impossible to identify what kind of demon beast it was. It looked like several types of demon beasts were stitched together. Seeing this demon beast, Lung Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly remembered that when he accidentally entered the underground space, he heard, they mention the fusion blood beast. Roar. Ayo! The demon beast roared towards the sky and actually made several different sounds. At the same time, a terrifying spiritual pressure was emitted. Everyone immediately felt their bodies tighten and their faces turn pale. A touch of fear surfaced in their hearts. Is this a rank 1 demon beast? It can't be a rank 2 demon beast, right? Originally, even if it was the 3 giant puppets, they were confident. No matter how strong the puppets were, they were still puppets. They were too cumbersome. But a demon beast was different, and it was such a terrifying demon beast. However, no one could give them an answer. What answered them was the attack of the demon beast of the opposite sex. The demon beast of the opposite sex kicked its thick legs and directly flew over, waving its 4 limbs wildly. The person targeted by the demon beast of the opposite sex was the chief of the Silver Ring Stronghold, Guhuan. Guhuan looked panicked at first, but he immediately reacted. His weapon was a strange ring-shaped weapon that could be used for both attack and defense. Guhuan only had time to pour all his spiritual power into the weapon and block in front of him. With a bang, Guhuan instantly flew out and hit the golden light cover. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his weapon was already full of cracks and could shatter at any time. When the others saw this scene, their hearts were shocked. Guhuan's cultivation was at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, and his weapon was a genuine rank 2 spirit weapon. In the blink of an eye, it was destroyed. How strong was the demon beast of the opposite sex? Unfortunately, there was no time for everyone to think more, because at the same time, the 3 giant puppets also raised their weapons one after another. Everyone was flustered for a while, but after all, they were the leaders of a group, so they quickly calmed down. After Shui Wuhai was sent flying by the heavy halberd puppet, he immediately shouted, "We can't fight on our own anymore. Those who are fast, go install the mutated demon beast. Everyone else, work together to kill the giant puppets." Shui Wuhai's suggestion was indeed a solution, but there was a problem. There was something to be gained from killing the giant puppets. Needless to say, the resources of the giant puppets were definitely the most precious. And although the puppets were tall, they were very cumbersome. If they fought steadily, at least their lives wouldn't be in danger. But that demon beast was different. Its strength was so strong, and its speed wasn't slow. Even if they only stalled it, there was the danger of losing their lives at any time. Thinking about it, who would be willing to stall the demon beast? Chapter 71. Seeing that no one was willing to deal with the mutated beast, Shui Wuhai's face showed some anger. Yushu then said, "Everyone, in this situation, we should first consider how to survive. I suggest that no one is allowed to touch the giant puppet's resources. After all the trouble is dealt with, everyone will rely on their own abilities. If anyone dares to take the resources, everyone will work together to kill them." Everyone nodded when they heard this and immediately split into a few groups. Lung Shiqi, Delta Orgi, and Xiongming all had movement techniques, so they went to stop the mutated beast. On the other hand, the 8 people led by Yushu, Shui Wuhai, and Hen Qianshan attacked the halberd puppet with all their might. The remaining 8 people split into 2 groups to stall the saber puppet and the spear puppet. Lung Shiqi and the other 2 were under the most pressure. Fortunately, their mission was only to stall the mutated beast, not to kill it. Whoosh! Lung Shiqi stepped on the black mist and barely dodged the mutated beast's attack. Delta Orgi and Xiongming waited for an opportunity to attack. At this moment, Lung Shiqi and Delta Orgi seemed to have returned to the time when they were fighting the blood-spotted leopard in the cave. The only difference was that the third person was Yushu back then, and now it was Xiongming. Lung Shiqi's body moved continuously, and the mutated beast missed again and again. It seemed to have realized that the person in front of it was not easy to deal with, so it decided to change targets. Coincidentally, Delta Orgi's soft sword slashed the mutated beast's legs, but only left a shallow sword mark. The mutated beast was furious and turned to pounce on Delta Orgi. They had seen the mutated beast's strength before, so Delta Orgi did not dare to take it head-on. She immediately used the confusion movement technique to dodge to the side. They barely managed to stall the mutated beast. On the other side, Yushu and the other 8 people had the absolute upper hand. The heavy halberd puppet was already riddled with scars, and it was estimated that it would not take long for it to break. The mutated beast pounced towards the Delta Orgi again. She subconsciously moved a few steps to the side based on the speed of the mutated beast from before. But what Delta Orgi didn't expect was that this time, a red light flashed from the abdomen of the mutated demonic beast, and the demonic beast speed suddenly increased greatly, arriving in front of her in the blink of an eye. Lung Shiqi sensed that something was wrong when he saw the red light nearby. Seeing the alien beast rushing towards the Delta Orgi, he hurriedly threw out the steel sword in his hand. Just as the 4 claws of the mutated beast were about to touch the Delta Orgi, a steel blade suddenly appeared between the two. With a clang sound, the steel saber was sent flying by the mutated beast. It didn't stop the beast for long, but in this small amount of time, the Delta Orgi's feet moved continuously, narrowly avoiding the attack. Delta Orgi's back couldn't help but exude a thin layer of sweat after escaping a calamity. She looked meaningfully at Lung Shiqi, but didn't say anything. In fact, there was no time for her to speak. The mutated beast's sudden change made the hearts of the 3 people sink. It seemed that things weren't as simple as they thought. Sure enough, the mutated beast no longer pounced on them this time. Instead, it galloped towards the Delta Orgy. Delta Orgy had just caught her breath, but she immediately moved again. At the same time, she scattered her soft sword, and dozens of silver lights pierced out. The speed of the demonic beast wasn't much faster than before, but it was more agile. With a twist of its body, its 4 claws fell. Facing Delta Orgy's silver sword light, the mutated beast didn't care at all, and its 4 claws directly rushed into the sword light. With a ding-ding-dang-dang-dang sound, Delta Orgy's soft sword slashed onto the 4 arms of the demonic beast, giving off a metallic sound. A sword shadow fell, but it didn't cause any substantial damage to the demonic beast, but at the same time, it blocked the demonic beast's attack. Delta Orgy took the opportunity to retreat. At the moment when Delta Orgy and the demonic beast started to fight, Lung Shichi ran over, and with a fist, a palm, and a finger, he consecutively used 3 spirit techniques. And he specifically targeted the demonic beast's weak abdomen to attack. 3 spirit techniques smashed down, and the demonic beast's abdomen was split open. But the strange thing was, there wasn't any blood flowing out, but a few red rays of light. The demonic beast turned around, and its 4 claws crazily clawed towards Lung Shichi. However, Lung Shichi was already prepared and raised his left arm in front of his body. He was wearing an arm guard on his arm, which he had obtained after defeating Moe. The next moment, Lung Shichi instantly felt a terrifying force coming from his left arm, and the arm guard didn't even last for 2 breaths before it completely shattered. But at the same time, Lung Shichi borrowed this force to retreat. Following that, Xiongming made his move. Xiongming wore a pair of sharp fist blades, and had already stealthily crept behind the demonic beast. Xiongming leapt up and flipped his body in midair. With both arms facing downwards, spiritual light flashed on his fist blades and viciously pierced into the demonic beast's skull. Roar! The demonic beast howled in pain. In the blink of an eye, its entire body flashed with a red glow, and a powerful spiritual energy sent Xiongming flying. Following that, its 4 sharp claws suddenly grew by 1-fold, and it clawed towards Xiongming, who was still in midair. Xiongming was in midair and could only use his spiritual energy to forcefully change his body's posture, but he was unable to avoid the demonic beast's sharp claws. Right at this moment, a long azure whip lashed out, and the whip was extremely fast, directly binding the demonic beast's 4 sharp claws. The attacker was none other than Delta Orgy. Delta Orgy pulled with all her might, and the demonic beast's extended claws were pulled to the side, causing it to grab nothing but air. Xiongming finally landed safely on the ground, and he cast a grateful glance at Delta Orgy. Delta Orgy didn't even look at him, and it seemed like she had no intention of responding to him. At this moment, the mutated demonic beast's 4 arms suddenly moved, and it used the whip to drag Delta Orgy over. Delta Orgy's body flew over involuntarily, and even though she let go of the whip, it was still useless. The mutated demonic beast exerted all of its strength, and the azure whip that was wrapped around it instantly exploded into several dozen pieces. A ferocious light appeared in the mutated demonic beast's eyes, and it extended its 4 sharp claws again, and it was about to grab Delta Orgy. At this critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Delta Orgy. This figure was none other than Lung Shichi. When Xiongming attacked, just now, Lung Shichi first picked up his steel saber, but who would have thought that the mutated demonic beast would target Delta Orgy in the blink of an eye? Lung Shichi didn't dare to hide his strength anymore, and he immediately used his Ghost Parade and Confusion footwork to block Delta Orgy's path. At this moment, time seemed to slow down again, and there was no sadness or joy in his heart, only calmness. He held the steel saber in his hand, and his mind was constantly recalling the insights he had gained during this period of cultivation and the ideal saber strike. Just as the mutated demonic beast's 4 claws were less than an inch away from Lung Shichi's body, Lung Shichi moved. Whoosh! a magnificent saber light in the shape of a crescent moon suddenly bloomed, and everyone only saw a flash of light in front of their eyes. In the next moment, 4 different shaped claws that were as hard as spirit weapons fell to the ground. That saber light, just now, was a move that Lung Shiqi had been experimenting with for a long time, and it was only at this critical moment that he comprehended it. Crescent Moon Slash. This move was a perfect fusion of the Crescent Moon Slash, the Golden Saber Strike, and a saber technique. With one slash, everything could be cut. Chapter 72. Author's tip for Not More Than Half a Year and Pomegranate D Mama. Ah! The alien beast howled in pain after losing its 4 claws. Lung Shiqi took advantage of this opportunity to pull Delta Orgi back. His stunning slash naturally attracted everyone's attention, especially Delta Orgi, who was close at hand. She could clearly feel how sharp and terrifying that beautiful slash was. However, her eyes were filled with splendor. The others were shocked when they saw Lung Shiqi cut off the alien beast's 4 claws with a single slash. Then, they became vigilant and raised Lung Shiqi's threat level to the same level as Blood Marshal C. However, Lung Shiqi's fierce slash came with a price. Lung Shiqi panted as he looked at the steel sword in his hand and smiled helplessly. At this time, this steel saber could no longer be called a saber because there were a few huge gaps on its body, and the entire blade was almost broken into 2. Sigh. Lung Shiqi sighed and threw the steel sword aside. Beside him, Ming Ming was also shocked by the half-moon slash. However, he quickly recovered and took advantage of the alien beast's howl to swing his arms. The 2 blades in his hands flew out. Taking a closer look, there were 2 very thin threads behind the fist blade. The blades flew out and pierced into the alien beast's abdomen without any resistance. 2 pieces of flesh were sliced off. Then, Ming Ming's arms danced in the air. The 2 fists danced in the air, leaving wounds on the monster's body every time they struck. Delta Orgi beside Lung Shiqi gritted her teeth and stabbed forward with her soft sword. When Lung Shiqi saw this, he opened his mouth and smiled bitterly. Their mission was only to stall the alien beast, but Delta Orgi and Ming Ming seemed to have gotten carried away. Since the 2 of them were attacking, he couldn't stay idle. He pulled out the dagger from his ankle and waited for an opportunity to strike. Gusan's bewildering footwork was displayed. Every time she moved, she would stab out with her sword. Her speed became faster and faster. Gradually, she formed a series of shadows and sword auras that drowned the demonic beast. Lung Shiqi's eyes widened when he saw this. He actually saw the shadow of Dazzling Flower in Delta Orgi's attack. He couldn't help but marvel at Delta Orgi's comprehension. Under the fierce attacks of Delta Orgi and Ming Ming, more and more wounds appeared on the alien beast body. However, all of a sudden, a blinding blood-red light burst out of the xenomorph beast body. An invisible power erupted, knocking Gusan and Xiongming back. Who knew what was going to happen to the alien beast this time? Lung Shiqi and the other 2 surrounded the alien beast in a triangular formation, ready to attack at any time. Meanwhile, the alien beast was bathed in the blood-red light. Its body was slowly changing. The beast's skin on the surface began to melt, revealing the flesh underneath. The alien beast, Ming Ming's body, was pulsating strangely. Its flesh was constantly regenerating, and the 4 broken claws were also growing back. After a few breaths, the alien beast became even more ferocious and ugly. It looked like it had just been fished out of a pot of oil. At the same time, on the other side of the battlefield, Yushu and the others finally destroyed the halberd puppet. They also noticed the situation here. They couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. However, they didn't pay too much attention to it. Their top priority was to take care of the remaining 2 giant puppets. Only Yushu felt a sense of déjà vu when he saw this scene. He recalled the mutation of the blood-spotted leopard back then. Lung Shiqi and Delta Orgi also looked at each other. Clearly, they had also thought of the same thing. After this transformation, the alien beast's strength and speed have greatly increased. We can't fight it anymore. There are only 2 puppets left. Reinforcements will be here soon. We just need to hold them back, Lung Shichi hurriedly said. He was afraid that Delta Orgi and Humming would fight to the death again. Roar! The alien beast suddenly roared into the sky. A blood-red light burst out of its eyes. It looked left and right, then stared at Lung Shichi. Seeing this, Lung Shichi's heart skipped a beat. Lung Shichi quickly raised his arm. A wall of earth rose from the ground. Then, Lung Shichi immediately teleported away. In the next moment, for sharp claws smashed the wall of earth and even tore apart Lung Shichi's clothes. Lung Shichi, who had already dodged to the side, sucked in a breath of cold air. He was shocked. This alien beast's speed has become so fast. Seeing that its attack had missed, the alien beast's blood-red eyes locked onto Lung Shichi's figure again. With a stomp of its feet, it created a small pit in the ground, and its body flew up like an arrow leaving the bowstring. Seeing this, Lung Shichi did not dare to be careless. He no longer hid his strength. He used the Ghost Parade and Confusion Footwork at the same time. Once, he narrowly dodged the mutated demonic beast. Delta Orgi and Humming were shocked to see the alien beast's speed. Humming thought to himself, if it were me, would I be able to dodge this attack? The next battle was a chase between Lung Shichi and the mutated demonic beast. Although Delta Orgi and Humming also cultivated movement techniques, they were no longer able to participate in a battle of this level. However, they were unwilling to just watch helplessly like this. At this moment, Lung Shichi hurriedly said, "Go help Yushu and kill those 2 giant puppets as soon as possible. I can still hold on for a while." When the 2 heard this, they knew that this was their best choice. Then, they turned around and joined the other battle. On the other side of the battlefield, with the addition of these 2 experts at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm, the one-sided battle instantly turned into a one-sided one. After a short while, they destroyed the giant puppet wielding a saber. At this moment, Yushu's eyes turned. He changed his strategy and shouted, "Leave a few people to stall the spear puppets. Everyone else, kill the alien beast with all your strength. No one can touch the items dropped by the puppets. Otherwise, everyone will work together to kill them. You have to know that no one can walk out of this golden light barrier. There is no way out." Shui Wuhai and the others pondered for a moment. They glanced at Lung Shichi, who was still struggling, and their eyes flickered with light. They seemed to be hesitating whether to help Lung Shichi now. However, when they saw the terrifying speed of the demonic beast, they finally nodded. Right now, only Lung Shichi's speed was enough to hold back the mutated demonic beast, so they had no choice but to put away their thoughts. They left 4 people to continue stalling the spear puppets, while the rest of them surrounded the alien beast. With the support of a large number of spirit cultivators at the middle stage of the pure spirit realm, Lung Shichi immediately felt the pressure on him decrease. Every time he successfully dodged, several people would tacitly attack the demonic beast. No matter how strong this demonic beast was, it did not take long for it to fall under the siege of more than a dozen spirit cultivators at the middle stage of the pure spirit realm. Only before it died, it barely managed to drag 1 person down with it. Everyone freed up their hands and returned again. In a very short time, they finished off the last spear puppet. At this point, all the puppet demonic beasts in the golden light had been killed, and they had only lost a few people. Phew! Everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief, but they immediately raised their vigilance, because the battle had just begun. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.